The screech of tires cut through the afternoon air like a knife through butter. Tasha Green felt the impact before she saw anything, her body lifted off the ground and thrown 3 feet backward onto the cold pavement. Her laptop bag skidded across the street, papers scattering like frightened birds. Pain exploded through her left hip and shoulder as she hit the ground, the taste of copper flooding her mouth where she'd bitten her tongue. Oh God, please be okay." A man's voice, deep and shaking with panic, broke through the ringing in her ears. Tasha blinked up at the gray Seattle sky, trying to make sense of what just happened. She'd been walking out of the coffee shop, checking her phone for the 3rd time that hour, hoping for a response from the client who owed her $2,000. Money she desperately needed to pay rent. Now she was on the ground and a stranger's face hovered above her, his green eyes wide with fear. "Don't move. I'm calling an ambulance." The man already had his phone out, his hands trembling as he dialed. "No." Tasha tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in her ribs made her gasp. "No ambulance. I can't afford it. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. You stepped out and I..." The man looked like he might be sick. He was handsome in an exhausted way, with dark hair that needed cutting and stubble that suggested he'd forgotten to shave that morning. His white button-down shirt was wrinkled and there were coffee stains on the sleeve. "Please let me get you help." I said no. Tasha pushed herself up on her elbows, ignoring the protests from her body. Around them, a small crowd had gathered. Someone was filming on their phone. "Perfect. Just perfect. I'm fine. You're bleeding." He pointed to her elbow where her green sweater had torn and blood was seeping through. Tasha looked at the wound and felt her stomach turn. It wasn't just a scrape. The skin was split open, probably needed stitches. Her jeans were torn at the knee too, and when she tried to stand, her left leg nearly buckled under her. The man caught her before she fell, his arms surprisingly steady despite his obvious panic. "That's it. You're going to the hospital. I'm taking you myself. You just hit me with your car." Tasha tried to pull away, but her body wasn't cooperating. "Why would I go anywhere with you?" "Because I'm responsible for this and I'm not going to leave you bleeding on the street." His voice was firmer now, though still laced with guilt. "My name is Julian Bennett. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to help you and I'm going to pay for everything. Every single thing." Tasha wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him to leave her alone, that she'd handle it herself like she handled everything else in her life. But the pain was getting worse, not better, and her vision was starting to blur at the edges. She thought about her empty bank account, her overdue rent, the client who wasn't returning her calls. "Fine." The word came out smaller than she intended. "But I'm keeping track of everything you owe me." Julian nodded, relief flooding his features. "Whatever you want. Can you walk to my car? It's right there." He pointed to a sleek black Mercedes parked at an angle on the street, the driver's door still open. Tasha let him guide her toward it, each step sending fresh waves of pain through her hip. The crowd parted for them and she heard someone mutter about rich people thinking they owned the roads. They weren't wrong. Julian helped her into the passenger seat with surprising gentleness, making sure her injured leg was comfortable before closing the door. He ran around to gather her scattered belongings, stuffing papers and her laptop into her bag with no regard for order. When he slid into the driver's seat, his hands were shaking again. "There's a hospital 10 minutes from here." He started the car, checking his mirrors 3 times before pulling out. "I'm really sorry. I was distracted. I got a call from my daughter's school and I was trying to text my assistant while driving, which was stupid and reckless and..." "You have a daughter?" Tasha wasn't sure why she asked. Maybe it was the shock talking. 4 kids actually. Julian let out a breath that sounded like a laugh without any humor in it. "Sophie is 12. The twins Luke and Lily are 10. And Emma just turned 6. Their nanny quit this morning and Sophie got sent to the principal's office for punching a boy who was bullying her brother, and I was trying to figure out how to leave a board meeting to pick her up when I hit you." Tasha closed her eyes, trying to process this information through the pain. 4 kids. A board meeting. This man wasn't just wealthy, he was busy and overwhelmed and apparently a terrible multitasker. "Is that supposed to make me feel better about being hit by a car?" she asked. "No." He glanced at her, guilt written all over his face. "Nothing makes that okay. I'm just trying to explain, not excuse." "There's no excuse." They drove in silence for a few minutes. Tasha watched the city pass by through the window, familiar streets that suddenly felt foreign. This morning she'd woken up worried about money and deadlines. Now she was in a stranger's car, bleeding and bruised, her entire afternoon derailed. "What's your name?" Julian asked softly. Tasha. Tasha Green. It's nice to meet you, Tasha. I wish it were under better circumstances. He pulled into the hospital emergency entrance and parked in a spot clearly marked for ambulances only. Wait here. I'll get a wheelchair. Before she could argue, he was out of the car and running toward the entrance. Tasha sat there, looking at the blood on her sweater, feeling the throb of pain in her hip and ribs and elbow. She should call someone. Her mother would worry. Her best friend Kenji would drop everything to come sit with her. But she didn't reach for her phone. She just sat there, watching Julian return with a nurse in a wheelchair, watching him explain the situation with animated gestures, watching him look back at the car with those worried green eyes. When he opened her door, he smiled at her. It was a small, tentative smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Ready? He asked. Tasha nodded and let him help her into the wheelchair. As the nurse pushed her through the automatic doors, Julian walked beside her, carrying her bag and asking questions about insurance and medical history that she barely heard. She was going to let this stranger help her. She was going to let him pay her bills and ease his guilt. Not because she wanted to, but because she needed to. Because sometimes pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. And maybe, just maybe, because there was something in his eyes that told her he needed to help just as much as she needed the help. Would you really turn down help when you desperately need it, even if it comes from a stranger? What would you do in Tasha's situation? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. 3 days passed in a blur of pain medication and ice packs. Tasha's diagnosis was better than it could have been. Severe bruising to her hip and ribs, a sprained ankle and 7 stitches in her elbow. No broken bones, no internal bleeding. The doctor said she was lucky. She didn't feel lucky. She felt like she'd been hit by a car, which technically she had been. Julian had stayed at the hospital for the entire 4 hours it took to get her examined, stitched up and released. He'd paid for everything at the registration desk without even asking for the total. When she tried to thank him, he just shook his head and said it was the least he could do. He'd driven her home to her tiny studio apartment in the University District, helped her up the stairs despite her protests, and made sure she had his personal cell phone number in case she needed anything. Then he'd left and Tasha had assumed that would be the end of it. She was wrong. The knock on her door came at 2 in the afternoon on Thursday. Tasha was on the couch in her pajamas, laptop balanced on her knees as she tried to work on a logo design for a local bakery. Her client had finally responded to her emails, not with payment but with more revision requests. The bruise on her hip had turned a spectacular purple-yellow, and moving still hurt. Coming, she called, limping toward the door. She looked through the peephole and felt her heart skip. Julian stood in her hallway, holding a massive bouquet of sunflowers and looking nervous. Tasha opened the door slowly. How did you get my address? You wrote it on the hospital forms. He had the decency to look embarrassed. I know this is probably crossing a line, showing up unannounced. If you want me to leave, I will. But I needed to check on you and I wanted to give you this. He held out a manila envelope along with the flowers. Tasha took the flowers first because they were beautiful and bright and her apartment could use some color. Then she took the envelope, which was surprisingly heavy. What is this? Open it. She did and her breath caught. Inside was a check made out to her for $15,000. That's too much. Tasha tried to hand it back, but Julian stepped backward, hands up. It covers your medical bills, which were about $4,000. The rest is for pain and suffering, lost work time, and anything else you need. He spoke quickly like he'd rehearsed this. I know money doesn't fix what happened, but I want to make this as easy for you as possible. I can't accept this. But even as Tasha said it, she was thinking about her rent, her maxed-out credit card, the student loans she'd been paying for a decade. $15,000 would change her life. Yes, you can. Julian's voice was gentle but firm. Please. It would make me feel better, and honestly, you'd be doing me a favor by not suing me, which you absolutely could and probably should do. Tasha looked down at the check, then at the man in her doorway. He was dressed more casually today, in jeans and a blue sweater that made his eyes look even greener. He looked less exhausted than he had on Monday, though there were still dark circles under his eyes. Come in, she heard herself say. I need to sit down and we should probably talk about this. Relief washed over Julian's face. Thank you. Her apartment was embarrassingly small, especially compared to what she imagined his house looked like. The studio was maybe 400 square feet, with a Murphy bed that was currently down and unmade, a tiny kitchenette, and barely enough room for her desk and couch. Her art prints covered the walls, and houseplants crowded every available surface. Sorry about the mess. Tasha gestured vaguely at the space as she limped back to the couch. It's not messy. It's lived in. Julian remained standing, looking at her artwork with genuine interest. Did you do these? Most of them. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator. Tasha set the flowers on her coffee table, which was really just a storage ottoman. Or I try to be. The steady income part is still a work in progress. These are incredible. He leaned closer to examine a digital illustration of the Seattle skyline she'd done in shades of blue and green. The way you've captured the light reflecting off the buildings, it's like the city is alive. Something warm flickered in Tasha's chest at the genuine appreciation in his voice. Most people just nodded politely at her work. Thank you. That one's actually for sale if you're interested. She meant it as a joke, but Julian pulled out his phone. How much? 300? Tasha named a price lower than she usually charged because he'd already given her $15,000 and she felt weird about it. I'll give you 500 and I want 2 more pieces for my office. He was already typing something on his phone. Do you have a website where I can see your portfolio? Julian, stop. Tasha held up her hand. You don't have to buy my art. You've already done more than enough. He looked up from his phone, confused. I'm not buying it because I feel guilty. I'm buying it because it's good. My office is boring and corporate, and I've been meaning to add some local art. This is perfect. Tasha studied his face, looking for signs of pity or obligation. She found neither. Okay, she said slowly. My website is tashagreendesigns.com. But seriously, you don't have to do this. I want to. Julian sat down in the chair across from her, careful to leave a respectful distance. Can I be honest with you about something? Please. The last 3 days have been some of the hardest of my life and I've had some pretty difficult days. He rubbed his face with both hands. I kept thinking about you lying on that street and how different it could have been. How I could have killed you because I was too distracted to pay attention. I haven't slept well. Every time I close my eyes, I see you falling. Tasha's throat tightened. She'd been so focused on her own pain and inconvenience that she hadn't considered what this might have done to him. I'm okay, she said softly. Bruised and sore, but okay. I know. But you might not have been, and that's on me. Julian met her eyes. So please take the check. Let me commission some artwork. Let me do something to make this better because I need that almost as much as you probably need the money. Am I right about that? The money? Tasha wanted to lie, to pretend she was fine financially and didn't need his help. But the check in her hand represented freedom from the stress that had been crushing her for months. Yes, she admitted. You're right about the money. Things have been tight. Then we're helping each other. Julian smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. You're letting me sleep at night and I'm helping you with rent or bills or whatever you need. Deal? Deal. Tasha found herself smiling back. But I'm still going to do good work on those art pieces. No charity. I wouldn't want charity. I want art that makes my boring tech office look less like a soul-sucking corporate prison. They both laughed and something shifted in the room. The awkwardness faded, replaced by something easier. Can I ask you something? Tasha shifted on the couch, trying to find a position that didn't hurt. Why tech? What does your company do? Julian's whole face changed, lighting up with enthusiasm. We develop educational software for kids with learning differences. My son Luke has dyslexia, and when he was younger we couldn't find good tools to help him. So I created them. That's actually amazing. It started as a dad trying to help his kid and turned into a company with 200 employees. He shrugged, but Tasha could tell he was proud. We're not changing the world, but we're helping some kids read better, and that feels pretty good. They talked for another hour. Julian told her about his children, how Sophie was fierce and protective, how the twins were complete opposites despite being identical, how Emma still believed in fairies. Tasha talked about her struggle to build a client base, her dream of opening a small design studio, her love for Seattle despite the rain. When Julian finally stood to leave, Tasha felt almost disappointed. Thank you for letting me visit, he said. And for accepting the check. You have no idea how much better I feel. Thank you for the flowers and the art commission. Tasha walked him to the door, her limp less pronounced than it had been an hour ago. And for staying at the hospital. I forgot to thank you properly for that. Julian paused in the doorway. Can I ask you something now? Sure. Would you have dinner with me sometime? After you're feeling better? He rushed to add, not as an apology or obligation. Just because I enjoyed talking to you and I'd like to do it again. Tasha's first instinct was to say no. This was complicated enough already. But then she looked at his hopeful expression and thought about how easy the conversation had been, how genuine he seemed. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." His smile could have lit up the entire building. "Great. I'll call you next week, give you time to heal. Take care of yourself, Tasha." After he left, Tasha sat back down on her couch and looked at the check in her hand. $15,000. A dinner date. 3 art commissions. 3 days ago she'd been hit by a car. Now her life was somehow better than it had been before the accident. She picked up her phone and called her mother. "Mama, you're never going to believe what just happened." The following Friday, Tasha stood in front of her closet and second-guessed every piece of clothing she owned. Julian had called that morning to confirm their dinner date, but with one small change in plans. "I'm so sorry," he'd said, and she could hear car horns in the background. "My mom was supposed to watch the kids tonight, but she came down with the flu. I completely understand if you want to reschedule, but I was wondering if maybe you'd be okay with me picking you up a bit early? I need to get the kids from their after-school program and then we could." "It's fine," Tasha had interrupted, surprising herself. "I don't mind meeting your kids." Now, as she settled on dark jeans and a red blouse that made her skin glow, she wondered if she'd made a mistake. Meeting a man's children on a first date seemed like jumping several steps ahead. But Julian had sounded so relieved, so grateful, that she couldn't bring herself to regret it. Her phone buzzed. Julian's text read, "Outside. No rush." Tasha grabbed her purse, checked her reflection one more time and headed downstairs. Her injuries had healed well over the past week. The stitches in her elbow were dissolving on their own, and the bruises had faded to a dull yellow-green that she could almost ignore. Julian's car was impossible to miss, and so was his smile when she opened the passenger door. "You look beautiful," he said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Sorry, was that too much? I'm out of practice at this." "It was perfect." Tasha buckled her seatbelt, noticing that he looked good too. He wore charcoal pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and he'd actually shaved. "How out of practice are we talking?" "I haven't been on a date in about 7 years." Julian pulled away from the curb. "My wife, Caroline, died when Emma was born. There were complications during delivery. Since then it's just been me and the kids and a rotating cast of nannies who eventually get tired of the chaos." "I'm sorry." Tasha didn't know what else to say. The grief in his voice was old but still present, like a scar that never quite faded. "Thank you. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through, but we're okay now. Different but okay." He glanced at her. "Is this too heavy for a first date? Should I be talking about movies or something?" "No, it's fine. I'd rather know the real stuff." Tasha settled into her seat. 7 years is a long time, though. What made you want to start dating now?" Julian was quiet for a moment. "Honestly? You did. After I hit you with my car, which I know is possibly the worst meet-cute in history, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Not just because of guilt, but because when we talked in your apartment I felt like myself for the first time in years. Not Julian the CEO or Julian the single dad. Just Julian." Tasha's chest felt warm. "That's really sweet. Sophie told me I needed to get a life beyond work and kids. She's 12 and already worried about me dying alone." He laughed. "When I told her I was taking someone to dinner tonight, she interrogated me for 20 minutes and made me promise to be a gentleman. I like her already." They pulled up to a large brick building with a colorful sign that read Bright Futures After School Program. Children were visible through the windows playing games and working on crafts. Julian parked and turned to Tasha. "Last chance to back out. My kids are a lot. I work with chaos every day." Tasha unbuckled her seatbelt. "I'm a freelancer. My whole life is chaos." Inside, the noise hit them immediately. Kids laughing, shouting, playing. A harried-looking woman at the front desk brightened when she saw Julian. "Mr. Bennett, perfect timing. Sophie's in the art room and the twins are in the gym. Emma is." She looked around. "Emma was just here. I'll find them." Julian led Tasha through the maze of rooms with the confidence of someone who'd done this 100 times. They found Sophie first. She was sitting at a table in the art room, drawing something with intense concentration. When she looked up and saw her father, her face transformed from serious to bright. Then she saw Tasha and her eyes narrowed slightly. "Sophie, this is my friend Tasha." Julian's voice was gentle. "Tasha, this is my daughter Sophie." "Hi, Sophie." Tasha gave a small wave, remembering what it was like to be 12 and protective of her parents. "Are you the lady Dad hit with his car?" Sophie asked bluntly. "Sophie," Julian warned. "What?" "I'm just asking." But Sophie was studying Tasha with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He felt really bad about it. He wouldn't shut up about it for days. I am that lady. Tasha sat down across from Sophie. And yes, he felt very bad. But I'm okay now, see? She held out her arm to show where the stitches had been. Sophie leaned forward to examine the healing wound. Did you sue him? No. You should have. We're rich. You could have gotten a lot of money. Sophie Elizabeth Bennet, Julian said firmly. But Tasha laughed. Your dad already gave me money to cover my medical bills and lost work. And he commissioned me to make art for his office, so we're even. You're an artist? Sophie's entire demeanor shifted. What kind? Graphic design mostly. Logos, illustrations, digital art. Tasha nodded at Sophie's drawing. That's really good. Is that a dragon? It's a phoenix rising from ashes. Sophie pushed the paper toward her. I'm doing a whole series on mythological creatures who represent rebirth and transformation. This one's for my art class. Tasha studied the drawing more closely. It was surprisingly sophisticated for a 12-year-old, with attention to shading and proportion that suggested real talent. This is incredible. Have you thought about going to art camp this summer? There's an amazing program at the community college. Sophie's face fell. Dad says we're too busy for camps this summer. I said we'd talk about it, Julian corrected. Come on, let's get your brother and sisters so Miss Tasha doesn't think we've forgotten about dinner. Finding the twins was easier. Luke and Lily were in the gym playing basketball with a group of other kids. They were identical in appearance, both with their father's dark hair and their mother's blue eyes according to the photo Julian showed Tasha later, but completely different in energy. Luke was quiet and methodical, lining up each shot carefully. Lily was all enthusiasm, running and jumping and laughing. Dad. Lily spotted them first and came running over, nearly tripping over her untied shoelaces. Can we get pizza? Please? Luke wants Chinese but pizza is better and… We're not getting takeout tonight, Julian said. We're going to a restaurant. With her? Luke had approached more slowly, and now he looked at Tasha with curiosity. Who is she? This is Tasha. She's joining us for dinner. Are you Dad's girlfriend? Lily asked, bouncing on her toes. We're friends, Julian said quickly, his ears turning red. That's what adults say when they like each other but don't want kids to know, Sophie informed her siblings, having followed them to the gym. Where's Emma? Julian looked around, clearly trying to change the subject. They found Emma in the reading corner, curled up on a beanbag chair with a picture book. She was tiny for 6, with curly hair that looked like it had defeated all attempts to tame it, and she was wearing a dress covered in butterflies. When she saw her father, she scrambled up and ran to him. Julian scooped her up easily and she wrapped her arms around his neck. Ready to go, baby? Emma nodded, then peeked at Tasha over her father's shoulder. Who's that? My name is Tasha. I like your dress. Thank you. I picked it myself. Emma's voice was soft. Daddy says I can always pick my own clothes. That's a good rule. Getting 4 children from the after-school program to the car was like herding cats. Sophie argued about sitting in the back, Lily couldn't find her backpack, Luke needed to use the bathroom, and Emma wanted to bring her library book. By the time everyone was buckled in, Tasha was exhausted just from watching. Julian caught her eye in the rearview mirror and mouthed, I'm sorry. But Tasha found herself smiling. The chaos was overwhelming, but there was something warm about it too. Something alive and real that her quiet apartment never had. So where are we going for dinner? Sophie asked. I was thinking that new Italian place downtown, Julian said. But I don't like Italian, Luke protested. You like pasta, Julian countered. That's different. How is pasta different from Italian food? Lily started singing a song from a movie. Emma joined in, off-key but enthusiastic. Sophie rolled her eyes and looked out the window. Julian met Tasha's eyes in the mirror again, this time with a look that said, See what I deal with? Tasha just grinned. 20 minutes later, after a debate about restaurants that involved all 4 children stating different preferences, Julian pulled into the parking lot of a family-style restaurant that served everything from burgers to stir-fry. It was a compromise and not what he'd planned for their first date, but the kids seemed happy. This isn't exactly the romantic dinner I promised, Julian said quietly as they walked toward the entrance. It's perfect, Tasha replied and meant it. Inside the restaurant, they squeezed into a large booth. Emma immediately attached herself to Tasha's side, which seemed to surprise everyone, including Julian. Emma's usually shy with new people, he whispered. But Emma was showing Tasha her menu, pointing out all the items with stars next to them. Those are the best ones, she confided. The stars mean they're special. Good to know. I'll definitely order something with a star. Dinner was chaotic but fun. Lily talked nonstop about her soccer team. Luke asked Tasha detailed questions about graphic design software. Sophie warmed up gradually, eventually showing her some sketches on her phone. Emma fell asleep against Tasha's arm halfway through the meal, her small body warm and trusting. Julian watched all of this with an expression Tasha couldn't quite read. Relief maybe. Or hope. When the check came, Tasha reached for her purse but Julian waved her off. This was supposed to be our date, remember? Some first date. You basically hired a babysitter. You're doing this for free, so definitely not a babysitter. He grinned. Besides, you're a natural with them. Emma never warms up to anyone this fast. On the drive back to her apartment, with all 4 kids now asleep in the back, Julian spoke softly. Thank you for tonight. I know this wasn't what you signed up for. I had a good time, Tasha said honestly. Your kids are great. They like you too. I could tell. He pulled up in front of her building. Can we do this again? Maybe just the 2 of us next time? Or maybe not. The words came out before Tasha could stop them. I mean, your kids are part of your life. Hiding that seems like a waste of time if we're going to keep seeing each other. Julian's smile was brighter than the streetlights. You want to keep seeing me? I want to keep seeing all of you. Tasha unbuckled her seatbelt. Even the chaos. She didn't see the text message until she was back in her apartment. It was from Julian. You have no idea how much tonight meant to me. Thank you for giving us a chance. Tasha looked at the words for a long time before responding. Thank you for letting me in. She fell asleep that night thinking about Emma's small hand in hers, Sophie's gradual smile, the twins' energy and Julian's grateful eyes. She thought about chaos and family and possibilities she hadn't considered before. Maybe getting hit by a car was the best thing that ever happened to her. Tasha had just finished a logo design for a new bakery when her phone rang. Julian's name flashed on the screen and she smiled before answering. Hey, how's your morning? Terrible. Catastrophic. I'm drowning. Julian's voice was strained in a way she hadn't heard before. Tasha, I need help and I know I have no right to ask, but I'm desperate. What's wrong? Are the kids okay? The kids are fine. I'm the problem. She heard him take a deep breath. My nanny quit. Well, she gave 2 weeks' notice, which ended yesterday. I have 3 interviews scheduled for potential replacements, but the first one isn't until next Friday, and I have a huge investor meeting in San Francisco on Monday that I absolutely cannot miss, and the kids have school and activities and Emma has that field trip on Wednesday that requires a parent or guardian, and my mom is still sick, and... Julian breathed. Sorry? I'm spiraling. Another breath. I was wondering if there's any chance, any at all, that you might be able to help me out for a week or 2. Just until I find someone permanent? I know it's a huge ask and you have your own work, but I'd pay you. Very well. Whatever your rate is times 3. Times 5. Name your price. Tasha leaned back in her chair processing this. They'd been on 3 dates over the past 2 weeks, all of them involving his children. She'd grown fond of all 4 kids, especially Emma, who now drew her pictures and saved them for when Tasha came over. But becoming their nanny, even temporarily, was a completely different level of involvement. What exactly would this entail? She asked carefully. Living in the guest house on my property so you're there in the mornings to get them ready for school. Picking them up from after-school programs. Making sure they do homework and get dinner and don't kill each other. I'd be home by 6 most days, earlier when possible. You'd have your own space to work during school hours. The guest house has Wi-Fi and an office setup. You have a guest house? I have a lot of property. It's ridiculous, honestly, but Caroline wanted a place where the kids could run around. His voice softened when he mentioned his late wife. Look, I know this is crazy. We've only known each other a few weeks. But the kids already love you and I trust you and I'm completely out of options. Tasha thought about her current situation. Her freelance income was unpredictable at best. She was still living in a tiny studio apartment, still worrying about bills despite the check Julian had given her. The money from this arrangement could help her finally save enough to rent a proper studio space for her design business. More than that, though, she genuinely cared about those kids. The thought of them being shuffled around to different temporary caregivers while Julian scrambled to find help made her heart hurt. What's the pay? She asked. She heard Julian exhale in relief. $3,000 a week, plus room and board. If you stay longer than 2 weeks, we can renegotiate. You can work on your design projects during school hours. I won't interfere with your client work at all. $3,000 a week was more than she usually made in a month. When would I start? Is tomorrow too soon? Julian's voice was hopeful and desperate in equal measure. I'd need to fly out Sunday night to make the Monday morning meeting. Tomorrow is Saturday. I know. I'd spend the day showing you everything. Routines, schedules, where everything is. Sophie can help too. She basically runs the house anyway. He paused. Tasha, I know this is asking a lot. If you need time to think about it, I'll do it. The words came out clear and certain. I'll help you. Really? You will? Oh my God, thank you. Julian sounded close to tears. Thank you so much. I can pick you up tomorrow morning, help you pack whatever you need. The guest house is fully furnished, but bring anything that makes you comfortable. After they hung up, Tasha sat in her apartment and wondered what she'd just agreed to. Moving in with a man she'd known for less than a month, taking care of his 4 children, essentially playing house with a family that wasn't hers. Her mother called an hour later as if she had some kind of maternal radar. Baby girl, tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. If you think I'm temporarily moving into a guest house to help the man who hit me with his car take care of his 4 kids while he finds a permanent nanny, then yes, I'm doing exactly that. Her mother was silent for a long moment. Have you lost your mind? Maybe. Tasha started mentally cataloging what she'd need to pack. But Mama, these kids need help. Julian's drowning. And the pay is really good. It's not about the money and we both know it. Her mother's voice was gentle now. You're getting attached. They're easy to get attached to. What happens when he finds a new nanny and you have to leave? What happens to those kids who've gotten attached to you too? Tasha didn't have an answer for that. She hadn't let herself think that far ahead. I'm just helping out a friend, she said finally. Well, you keep telling yourself that. But her mother's tone wasn't judgmental. Just be careful, baby. With your heart and with theirs. The next morning Julian picked her up at 8. He helped her carry 2 suitcases and a box of art supplies down to his car, and then they drove north out of the city. After 20 minutes, they turned onto a private road that wound through trees before opening up to reveal a sprawling property. The main house was beautiful but not ostentatious, a modern design with lots of windows and natural wood. But it was the guest house that made Tasha catch her breath. It sat about 100 yards from the main house, connected by a stone path. It was smaller but just as beautiful, with its own porch and garden. This is where I'll be staying? She asked. If it's okay. There's a bedroom, full bathroom, living room and office space. The kitchen is small but functional. Julian carried her suitcases to the door. The kids know you're coming. They're excited. Well, Sophie is pretending not to be excited, but she spent an hour last night making a welcome sign for your door. Sure enough, when Julian opened the door, there was a hand-drawn sign taped to the inside that read, Welcome Tasha, in colorful letters surrounded by drawings of flowers and birds. The guest house was perfect. Everything was clean and bright with comfortable furniture and art on the walls. The office space had a large desk, a good chair, and a window that looked out onto the garden. I can't believe this is where I'll be working, Tasha said, running her hand along the desk. It's all yours. Wi-Fi password is on that sticky note. Julian set down her suitcases. Come on, let's get you settled in the main house. The kids are waiting. The next few hours were a whirlwind of information. Julian showed her where everything was, from the kids' school supplies to the emergency contacts on the refrigerator. He went over schedules. Sophie had debate club on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the twins had soccer practice on Mondays and Wednesdays, Emma had dance class on Fridays. There were meal preferences, bedtime routines, and a list of rules that seemed reasonable. Sophie can help with a lot of this, Julian said as they stood in the kitchen. She's been helping manage her siblings since she was 8. I probably rely on her too much, but she's so capable. Where are the kids now? Playroom. They're giving us space to talk, but Emma keeps peeking around the corner to see if you're still here. As if on cue, a small curly head appeared from behind the doorframe. Emma, come here. Julian waved her over. You can say hi. Emma ran to Tasha and hugged her legs. You're staying? For a little while, yes. Forever. Julian and Tasha locked eyes over Emma's head. We'll see, baby, Julian said gently. But Tasha's going to take care of you while Daddy's away, okay? You need to be good for her. I'm always good, Emma said, which made both adults laugh. Sophie appeared next, trying to look casual but clearly curious. Is the guest house okay? It's perfect. Thank you for the sign. Sophie's cheeks turned pink. It was Emma's idea. No, it wasn't, it was yours, Emma said loyally. The twins came in together as they usually did. Lily immediately started talking about her soccer game that afternoon, while Luke asked if Tasha knew how to help with long division homework. I'm okay at math, Tasha said. We'll figure it out together. They all had lunch together, a chaotic affair involving sandwich making and debates about whether tomatoes belonged on sandwiches. Then Julian took Lily to her soccer game while Tasha stayed back with the other three, starting to get a feel for the rhythm of the house. By evening, she was exhausted but in a good way. The kids were easy to be around and the house felt warm despite its size. When Julian returned with Lily, he found Tasha helping Luke with his homework while Sophie read to Emma on the couch. "This is nice," he said quietly, standing in the doorway. That night, after all the kids were in bed, Julian walked Tasha back to the guest house. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "It's not too late to change your mind." "I'm sure." Tasha unlocked her door. "Your kids are great, Julian. This isn't a hardship. It will be sometimes. They're not always angels. Sophie gets moody, the twins fight, Emma has nightmares." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm probably forgetting 100 important things I should tell you. Then call me when you remember. Or text. I'll figure it out." She smiled at him. "Go to San Francisco. Close your deal. Your kids will be fine." Julian stepped closer and for a moment Tasha thought he might kiss her. Instead, he took her hand and squeezed it gently. "Thank you," he said, "for all of this, for giving us a chance, for not running away when you realized how complicated my life is." "Your life is complicated because it's full," Tasha replied. "That's not a bad thing." After he left, Tasha stood on her porch and looked at the main house, where lights glowed in the windows. Somewhere inside, 4 kids were sleeping, trusting her to take care of them. And somewhere in that house was a man who was starting to mean more to her than she'd expected. Her mother's warning echoed in her head. What happens when you have to leave? Tasha pushed the thought away. She'd deal with that when the time came. For now, she was going to focus on the present. On homework help and soccer practices and bedtime stories. On being there for a family that needed her. Even if it was only temporary. The first morning alone with the kids was controlled chaos. Julian had left for the airport at 6, after waking Tasha up to go over last-minute instructions that he'd apparently forgotten to mention the day before. Now it was 7:30 and she needed to get 4 children dressed, fed, and out the door in 45 minutes. "Emma, you can't wear that to school," Tasha said for the 3rd time. Emma had changed from her butterfly dress into a fairy costume complete with wings. "It's not dress-up day. But I want to be a fairy." "You can be a fairy after school." Tasha knelt down to Emma's level. "Please put on the blue dress we picked out. Will you braid my hair like a fairy princess?" "Yes, if you get dressed right now." Emma ran off, and Tasha turned to find Luke sitting at the kitchen table with his cereal, looking upset. "What's wrong?" "I can't find my math homework. I did it last night but now it's gone." His voice was tight with frustration. "Okay, we'll look for it. When did you last see it?" "On my desk before bed." Sophie appeared, already dressed and ready, her backpack on her shoulder. Emma probably took it to draw on the back. "Check the art supplies." She was right. Emma's art supply box contained Luke's math homework, now decorated with crayon flowers around the edges. "Emma," Luke groaned. "I made it pretty," Emma said, emerging in her blue dress but still holding the fairy wings. Tasha looked at the homework. The math was still legible and Emma's additions were actually kind of charming. "Your teacher will love it. It's artistic." Luke didn't look convinced but he took the paper. Lily came downstairs with her soccer uniform on instead of school clothes. "Practice isn't until after school," Tasha reminded her. "I know, but I want to be ready." "You'll be ready when you change after school. Go put on regular clothes." "But..." "Now please. We leave in 20 minutes. Somehow they made it out the door with 2 minutes to spare. Tasha drove them to school in Julian's second car, a practical SUV that was easier to manage than his Mercedes. The elementary school and middle school were on the same campus, which helped. Sophie got out first, giving a small wave before joining her friends. "Bye, Tasha," Emma called, dragging her backpack behind her. "Have a good day, baby. I'll be here at 3 to pick you up." After drop-off, Tasha drove back to the house in blessed silence. She had 6 hours before pickup, 6 hours to work on her design projects and maybe remember what her life was like before it involved managing 4 schedules. The guest house felt like a sanctuary. She made coffee, opened her laptop and looked at her to-do list. 3 client projects needed attention, including a website redesign for a local nonprofit that had a tight deadline. She dove into the work, losing herself in color schemes and layouts. When her phone alarm went off at 2:30, she was shocked. The day had disappeared. She'd accomplished more in 6 hours than she usually did in 2 full days, probably because she knew her time was limited. Pickup was smooth. Emma came running out of her classroom and hugged Tasha's legs like she'd been gone for a month. Luke and Lily appeared together, arguing about something that had happened at recess. Sophie was last as usual, talking to her teacher about an upcoming project. "Can we get ice cream?" Lily asked as they walked to the car. "Did your dad say you could have ice cream on school days?" "He says no added sugar after school on weekdays," Sophie said, giving her sister a look. "Lily knows that." "But Tasha's not Dad," Lily argued. "Nice try." Tasha unlocked the car. "We're having the snacks your dad left. Apple slices and cheese." "Boring," Lily muttered, but she didn't argue further. Back at the house, Tasha set the kids up with their snacks and started homework supervision. This turned out to be more complicated than expected. Luke needed help with a science project about ecosystems. Lily couldn't focus and kept getting up to practice soccer moves in the living room. Sophie was working on an English essay and didn't need help but kept getting distracted by her phone. Emma, who didn't have homework yet, decided to draw a picture of everyone. She narrated as she drew, "This is Daddy and this is Sophie and this is Luke and Lily and this is me and this is Tasha. We're all holding hands because we're a family." Tasha's heart squeezed at that, but she didn't correct her. How could she explain to a 6-year-old that she was just temporary? Dinner was another adventure. Julian had left instructions for simple meals, and Tasha had decided on spaghetti with marinara sauce. She'd cooked plenty of times for herself but never for 4 kids with different preferences. "I don't like sauce," Luke said. "Can I have butter instead?" Emma asked. "I'm not hungry," Sophie announced, though Tasha suspected this was teenage posturing rather than actual lack of hunger. Only Lily ate without complaint, going back for seconds and thirds. After dinner came baths, which Tasha quickly learned was its own special kind of chaos. Emma wanted to bring 12 toys into the tub. Luke needed supervision because he'd get distracted and forget to actually wash. Lily splashed water everywhere. Sophie was old enough to shower on her own, thankfully. By 8 o'clock, all 4 kids were in pajamas. Emma asked for a bedtime story, which led to Luke and Lily wanting to listen too. They all piled into Emma's room, and Tasha read 3 picture books before Emma's eyes finally started to close. "Tasha?" Emma's voice was sleepy. "You're not going to leave, are you?" "I'll be here in the morning," Tasha said, which wasn't exactly an answer. "Good. I like when you're here. Daddy's happier." After the kids were asleep, Tasha video called Julian to give him an update. He answered immediately and she could see a hotel room behind him. "How was day 1?" he asked. "We survived. Everyone's fed, clean and sleeping." "You're amazing." He looked exhausted but relieved. "I've been worrying all day. We had a few hiccups but nothing major." Emma tried to wear a fairy costume to school, Luke's homework got decorated, and Lily wanted ice cream but we worked it out. Julian laughed. "That sounds about right. Did Emma draw another picture?" "How did you know?" "She always draws when big changes happen. It's her way of processing." He shifted and Tasha could see papers spread out on the bed behind him. "How are you?" "Really? Tired? But good tired." Tasha curled up on the couch in the guest house. "Your kids are great, Julian. They like you a lot. Sophie texted me earlier to say you were doing a good job." He smiled. Coming from her, that's high praise. They talked for another 20 minutes, and Tasha found herself relaxing into the conversation. Julian told her about his meeting, which had gone well. She told him about the funny things the kids had said. It felt domestic and comfortable, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. "I should let you get some sleep," Julian finally said. "You've got another full day tomorrow. When do you come back?" "Thursday night if everything goes well." "Think you can handle 3 more days?" "I think I can handle it." Tasha smiled. "The kids can handle it anyway." The next few days fell into a rhythm. Tasha learned the shortcuts. Let Lily wear her soccer warm-ups under her school clothes to save time. Give Luke extra time for breakfast because he was slow in the mornings. Help Emma pick out her clothes the night before. Leave Sophie alone unless she asked for help. She also learned the hard parts. Luke had dyslexia, which meant reading homework took 3 times longer than it should. Sophie was dealing with friend drama at school that she didn't want to talk about. Lily's competitive nature meant she got upset when she didn't score in soccer. Emma had nightmares twice, and both times she came to the guest house instead of staying in the main house alone. "I'm scared," Emma whispered the second time, standing at Tasha's door in her pajamas. "Come here, baby." Tasha let her in and made space on the couch. "What were you dreaming about?" "I don't remember. Just scary things." Emma curled against her side. Will you stay with me? Tasha carried her back to the main house and lay down in Emma's small bed until she fell back asleep. When she tried to leave, Emma's hand clutched her shirt. Don't go yet. So Tasha stayed and eventually fell asleep herself, waking up at dawn with a crick in her neck and Emma sprawled across her. On Wednesday she chaperoned Emma's field trip to the zoo. It was exhausting keeping track of 6-6-year-olds, but Emma was so proud to have her there that Tasha didn't mind the chaos. This is my Tasha, Emma told everyone. She lives with us now. Each time Emma said something like that, Tasha felt a pang of guilt. She was getting too attached and so were the kids. This was only temporary. In a week or two Julian would hire a real nanny, and Tasha would move back to her apartment and become just a friend who visited sometimes. But it was hard to remember that when Luke showed her his A on the science project she'd helped him with. When Sophie asked her opinion on college essays even though Sophie was only in 7th grade. When Lily insisted Tasha come to her soccer game and cheered extra loud when Tasha arrived. When Emma drew another picture, this one labeled My Family, with Tasha right in the middle. Thursday afternoon, Tasha was making dinner when her phone rang. It was Julian. Hey, I'm at the airport. I'll be home in about 3 hours. The kids will be excited. Tasha stirred the pasta sauce. How did everything go? Better than expected. We got the funding, plus 2 of the investors want to partner on additional projects. His voice was warm. I couldn't have done this without you, Tasha. Knowing the kids were taken care of, that they were happy, it let me focus completely on work. I'm glad I could help. Listen about that. Julian paused. Can we talk when I get home? About maybe extending this arrangement? Tasha's heart skipped. Extending how? I'll explain everything tonight. But just so you know, you're not temporary to us. You're family. At least that's how we see it. After they hung up, Tasha stood in the kitchen, wooden spoon in hand, trying to process what he'd said. Family. Not temporary. Extending the arrangement. What did that mean? Is Dad coming home? Sophie had appeared in the doorway. In a few hours. Good. The house is better when he's here. Sophie moved into the kitchen and started setting the table without being asked. It's better when you're here too. Sophie. I know you're probably going to leave soon. When Dad finds a real nanny. Sophie's voice was matter-of-fact, but Tasha heard the hurt underneath. Everyone leaves eventually. That's not true. My mom left. 5 nannies have left. Even Mrs. Peterson next door moved away last year. Sophie aligned the forks precisely. People always leave. Tasha set down the spoon and pulled Sophie into a hug. The girl stiffened at first, then melted into it. I'm not planning on leaving, Tasha said softly. Not unless you want me to. We don't want you to. Any of us. Sophie pulled back, wiping her eyes quickly. Emma cries in her room sometimes because she's worried you'll go away. Luke told his teacher that his new mom is helping him read better. Lily put your picture on her soccer locker. And Dad actually smiles now. Your dad smiled before. Not like he does when he talks about you. Sophie gave her a look that was far too mature for 12. He's in love with you. Anyone can see it. Before Tasha could respond, the twins burst into the kitchen, arguing about which movie they should watch after dinner. Emma followed, carrying a new drawing. The moment passed, but Sophie's words stayed with Tasha all evening. When Julian finally arrived home, the kids tackled him in the entryway. He hugged each of them, listened to their stories, and admired Emma's drawings. But his eyes kept finding Tasha across the room, and the look in them made her heart race. After the kids went to bed, Julian walked Tasha to the guest house like he had that first night. But this time he didn't just say goodnight at the door. Can I come in? We should talk. Tasha led him inside, suddenly nervous. They sat on the couch and Julian turned to face her. I've been doing a lot of thinking this week, he began. About what I want, what the kids need, what makes sense for all of us. Okay. I don't want to hire another nanny. I want you to stay. Not as an employee exactly, but as... You search for the right word. As part of our family. Permanently. Julian. I know it's a lot. We've only known each other a few weeks. But Tasha, these have been the best weeks I've had in years. The kids are happier, I'm happier, and it's all because of you. He took her hand. I'm not proposing or anything that serious. Not yet. But I want you to stay. Keep living in the guest house if that's more comfortable, or move into the main house. Keep working on your design business, but know you'll always have a home here. With us. Tasha looked at their joined hands. Everything he was offering was exactly what she wanted. But the responsible part of her brain was waving red flags. This is really fast, she said. I know. If you need time to think about it. What happens if things don't work out between us romantically? The question had to be asked. The kids are already attached. So am I. If we try dating seriously and it falls apart, everyone gets hurt. Then we'll deal with it like adults, Julian said simply. But Tasha, I'm not a reckless person. I don't make impulsive decisions, especially not ones involving my children. I've thought about every angle, every possible outcome. And I keep coming back to the same conclusion. You belong here. With us. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He squeezed her hand. Stay. Please. Let's see where this goes. Tasha thought about Emma's drawings, Luke's proud smile over his science grade, Lily's enthusiasm, Sophie's guarded hope. She thought about waking up every morning with purpose, about being part of something bigger than herself. Okay, she said. I'll stay. Julian's smile could have lit up the entire estate. Really? Really? But I'm keeping the guest house for now. We should take things slow. Slow is good. Slow works. He pulled her into a hug and Tasha let herself relax into it. Thank you. For everything. For giving us a chance. That night after Julian left, Tasha lay in bed and thought about how her life had changed. A month ago she'd been alone in a tiny apartment, struggling to make ends meet. Now she was part of a ready-made family, living on a beautiful property, and falling for a man who looked at her like she was the answer to every question he'd been asking. It was fast. It was scary. It was probably a little bit crazy. But it was also right. 3 months passed like water flowing downstream, natural and easy. Tasha settled into life at the Bennett estate in ways she never expected. The guest house became her sanctuary, decorated with her artwork and houseplants from her old apartment. She'd converted the office into a proper studio, and her design business flourished with the stability of not worrying about rent. But most of her time was spent in the main house, where the lines between nanny, girlfriend, and family member blurred more each day. Tasha, can you help me with this essay? Sophie appeared in the kitchen one Saturday morning. It's about someone who inspires you, and I'm writing about you. Me? Tasha looked up from the grocery list she was making. Why me? Because you're the only adult who actually listens when I talk about art. Sophie sat down at the kitchen table. My teacher says I need more specific examples. Can I interview you? Sure, but maybe pick someone more interesting. What about your art teacher, or? I want to write about you. Sophie's jaw was set in that stubborn way she had. You're the one who encouraged me to enter that poster contest. You're the one who spent 3 hours helping me perfect my shading technique. You're the one who told me that art isn't just a hobby, it can be a real career. Tasha's throat felt tight. Okay. Interview away. They spent the next hour talking about art, creativity, and following dreams even when they seemed impractical. Sophie took notes furiously, and by the end she was smiling in a way that made her look younger than her 12 years. Thanks, Tasha. This is going to be a great essay. You're welcome. Now go get your brother to help you clean the playroom like I asked an hour ago. Sophie rolled her eyes but went without arguing, which was progress. Julian came into the kitchen a few minutes later, carrying Emma on his shoulders. What was that about? Sophie's writing an essay about me for school. Of course she is. Julian set Emma down and she immediately ran to Tasha for a hug. You're her hero. You're everyone's hero around here. Stop exaggerating. I'm not. He kissed her cheek, something that had become natural over the past few weeks. They still hadn't officially defined their relationship beyond dating, but moments like this felt comfortably domestic. My mother's coming to visit next week, by the way. Tasha froze. Your mother? Don't look so worried. She's going to love you. Does she know about me? About us. She knows I'm seeing someone who's wonderful with the kids and makes me happy. That's all she needs to know. Julian grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. Although fair warning, she's very Catholic and will probably ask about our intentions. Our intentions? Marriage, babies, the whole traditional path. He said it casually like he was discussing the weather. I'll handle it. You just be yourself. The following week, Tasha stress cleaned the entire guest house twice before Julian's mother arrived. Diane Bennett was a tiny woman in her 70s with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She swept into the house like a small tornado, hugging her grandchildren and immediately spotting every change Tasha had made to the household. Someone reorganized the spice cabinet, Diane observed, running her finger along the alphabetically arranged jars. And these curtains are new. Much better than those dreary beige ones Julian picked out. I helped choose those. Julian looked mildly offended. They were awful, darling. Accept it. Diane turned to Tasha. You must be Tasha. I've heard so much about you. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Bennett. Tasha shook her hand, which was surprisingly strong for such a small woman. Call me Diane. Now let's have tea and you can tell me all about yourself. Julian, take the children outside. We need girl talk. Julian gave Tasha an apologetic look but herded the kids out to the backyard. Tasha followed Diane to the living room, where tea was already set up, which meant someone had planned this interrogation in advance. So, Diane said, pouring tea with practiced grace. You're the woman who's captured my son's heart. I don't know about captured. Tasha accepted the cup. We're just seeing where things go. And while you're seeing where things go, you're living on his property and raising his children. Diane's eyes were kind but penetrating. That's quite a commitment for someone who's just seeing where things go. I know it looks fast. It is fast. But I care about your son and those kids. I'm not here to take advantage or... Child, relax. Diane set down her teacup. I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to understand. Julian hasn't brought anyone around since Caroline died. The fact that you're here, integrated into his life and the children's lives, tells me something real is happening. Tasha relaxed slightly. He's a good man. He works too hard and he worries too much, but he's trying his best. He is trying his best. Diane smiled. And from what I can see, you help him do that. The house feels warmer. The children seem more settled. And my son, he smiles again. Really smiles, not just that polite thing he does at business meetings. They make it easy. Tasha looked out the window where Julian was playing tag with the kids. This family, they welcomed me when they had no reason to. I was just a stranger their dad hit with his car. Diane laughed, a bright sound that made her seem younger. Yes, Julian told me about that. Worst meet cute in history, he said. She leaned forward. Can I tell you something? As someone who loved Caroline like a daughter and who loves my son more than life itself. Of course. Caroline was wonderful. She was my son's first love, the mother of my grandchildren, and I still miss her every day. Diane's eyes were wet but her voice was steady. But she's gone. And Julian has been stuck for 7 years, afraid to move forward because he thought moving forward meant forgetting. You're not replacing Caroline. You're helping him remember how to live again. I would never try to replace her. I know. That's why you're perfect for him. Diane patted Tasha's hand. Now, tell me about this design business of yours. Julian showed me your website. You're very talented. They talked for another hour, and Tasha found herself genuinely enjoying Diane's company. The older woman was sharp and funny, with stories about raising Julian and his sisters that made Tasha laugh until her sides hurt. When Julian and the kids came back inside, muddy and happy, Diane took one look and shooed them toward the bathroom. Bass. All of you. Don't track mud through Tasha's clean house. It's not my house, Tasha protested. Isn't it? Diane raised an eyebrow. You live here, you take care of it, you've made it a home again. Sounds like your house to me. That night, after Diane had gone to the guest room she was using for her visit and the kids were asleep, Julian found Tasha on the back porch. Did she grill you? He asked, sitting beside her on the porch swing. A little. But I like her. She likes you too. She told me you're good for me and I'd be an idiot to let you go. Julian put his arm around her shoulders. Not that I was planning on it. Your mom said something today that's been on my mind. Tasha leaned into him. She said I'm helping you remember how to live again. Is that true? Were you just going through the motions before? Julian was quiet for a moment. Yeah. I was surviving, not living. Making sure the kids were okay, running my company, but not really present for any of it. He turned to look at her. Then I hit you with my car. Romantic. Right? He laughed. But seriously, meeting you, it woke something up in me. Suddenly I wanted to do more than just survive. I wanted to laugh again, to look forward to coming home, to imagine a future that wasn't just getting through each day. I feel the same way. Tasha took his hand. Before you, I was just floating. Working, paying bills, hoping something would change. Now I have purpose. I have people I care about who care about me back. The kids adore you. Emma told my mother you're her new mom. She didn't. She did. And before you panic about that, my mom thought it was sweet. Julian kissed her temple. Luke told his teacher you're the best thing that ever happened to our family. Sophie wrote that entire essay about you. And Lily put your picture in her locker next to the one of me. They're good kids. They're happy kids now. Because of you. He pulled her closer. I know we've been taking things slow and that's good. But Tasha, I need you to know something. I'm in love with you. Completely. And I'm not going anywhere. Tasha's heart stuttered. Julian? You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know how I feel. He stroked her hair gently. You've become essential to me, to us. I can't imagine my life without you in it. I love you too, Tasha said, the words coming easily. I have for a while now. I was just scared to say it out loud. Julian's smile was radiant. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Tasha was breathless. Stay tonight, Julian whispered. In the main house. With me. We don't have to do anything, I just want to fall asleep with you and wake up with you. Your mother is here. She's a modern woman. She'll survive. He stood and held out his hand. Come on. Let's stop pretending we're not building something real here. Tasha took his hand and let him lead her inside. They checked on each of the children, tucked in sleeping forms and adjusted blankets. In Luke's room they found one of Tasha's art prints hanging above his bed, something she'd made for him about overcoming challenges. When did he put that up? Tasha whispered. Last week. He said it makes him feel brave. Julian squeezed her hand. In Julian's bedroom, Tasha felt nervous for the first time in weeks. But Julian just gave her one of his t-shirts to sleep in, and they lay down together, his arms wrapped around her. This okay? He asked. It's perfect. They talked in the darkness about everything and nothing. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Julian told her about Caroline, not with sadness but with affection, sharing memories of their time together. Tasha told him about past relationships that hadn't worked, about her struggles with feeling like she wasn't good enough. You're more than good enough, Julian said fiercely. You're everything. Tasha fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer and more content than she ever had in her life. When she woke up, sunlight was streaming through the windows and Julian was watching her with a soft expression. Good morning, he said. Morning. How long have you been awake? About 10 minutes. I didn't want to move and wake you. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're beautiful in the morning. I probably look terrible. You look like you belong here. A knock on the door interrupted them, followed by Emma's voice. Daddy? Are you awake? Julian called for her to come in, and Emma pushed open the door, stopping short when she saw Tasha in the bed. Tasha stayed over? Her face lit up like Christmas morning. I did. Is that okay? Emma launched herself onto the bed, wiggling between them. It's the best. Now we're really a family. Over Emma's head, Julian and Tasha shared a look. They were really doing this. Building something real, something lasting. And it felt absolutely right. Later that morning, Diane found Tasha in the kitchen making breakfast for everyone. The older woman gave her a knowing smile. So you stayed in the main house last night. Is that a problem? Tasha asked, suddenly worried about Catholic judgment. Not at all. It's about time. Diane started setting the table. Life's too short to waste time pretending you don't love each other. I can see you're good for my son and those children. That's all I needed to know. The weekend passed in a warm blur. Diane told embarrassing stories about Julian's childhood. They all went to Lily's soccer game, where Tasha cheered so loudly she lost her voice. Sophie showed her grandmother the essay about Tasha, which made Diane tear up. Luke read aloud from a book he'd finished, his dyslexia no longer the barrier it once was thanks to the techniques Tasha had researched and practiced with him. When Diane left on Sunday evening, she hugged Tasha tightly. Take care of my family, she whispered. They need you. I will. I promise. The weeks that followed settled into a new normal. Tasha still kept the guest house as her studio, but most nights she slept in the main house with Julian. They were careful around the kids, not overly affectionate but not hiding their relationship either. The children seemed to accept it naturally, as if this was how things were always meant to be. Tasha's design business continued to grow. Julian introduced her to contacts in the business world, and she landed several corporate clients. She hired an assistant, a recent design school graduate named Kenji who worked remotely and helped manage the increasing workload. One Thursday evening, Tasha was working late in her studio when Julian knocked on the door. Can I come in? Always. He entered carrying 2 glasses of wine and looking nervous in a way she'd never seen before. What's wrong? Tasha saved her work and turned to face him. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's kind of the problem. Julian handed her a glass and sat on the couch. I've been thinking about something. That's ominous. It's not bad, I promise. Just significant. He took a sip of wine. My company is expanding. We're opening offices in 3 new cities, and it means I'll need to travel more over the next year. Maybe 2 weeks a month. Tasha's stomach dropped. Oh. The thing is, I don't want to be away from the kids that much. From you. So I've been considering what that means, what I want moving forward. He set down his glass. The kids need stability. They need someone who's always here, who they can count on no matter what. You're not asking me to choose between you and my business, are you? Tasha felt defensive suddenly. What? No. God, no. Julian moved closer. I'm asking if you'd consider making this permanent. Officially. Moving into the main house completely, not as a nanny or even just my girlfriend, but as their parent. As my partner in everything. Julian, we've only been together a few months. I know. But when you know, you know. He took her hands. I'm not rushing you. Take whatever time you need to think about it. But Tasha, you're already part of this family. The kids call you their bonus mom. Emma tells everyone you're her mother. Luke puts your name on school forms under parent contacts. Sophie asks your opinion on everything. Lily wants you at every game, every event. What exactly are you asking? I'm asking if you'd be willing to make it official. Not marriage, not yet, though I won't lie and say that's not where I hope this goes eventually. But something that tells the kids this is forever. That tells you this is forever. That tells the world you're not just passing through. Tasha's mind raced. This was everything she wanted, but it was also terrifying. What if she wasn't enough? What if she failed these kids who were counting on her? Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. Julian kissed her forehead. Just know that whatever you decide, I love you. We all love you. That's not going to change. After he left, Tasha sat in her studio for a long time, looking at the life she'd built. Her artwork covered the walls. Photos of the kids were scattered across her desk. A family calendar hung by the door, marked with soccer games and school events and dentist appointments. She was already all in. She'd been all in since that first dinner when Emma had fallen asleep against her arm. The question wasn't whether she wanted this. The question was whether she believed she deserved it. Her phone rang. It was her mother. Hey, Mama. Hey yourself. You sound troubled. What's wrong? Tasha told her everything, the words pouring out. Julian's proposal to make things official. Her fears about not being enough. Her worry that this was all happening too fast. Her mother listened without interrupting, then said, Baby girl, let me ask you something. Are you happy? Yes. Completely. Do those children love you? I think so. Yes. Does that man treat you right? He treats me like I'm the most important person in the world. Then what's the problem? Her mother's voice was gentle. You've spent your whole life waiting for permission to be happy. To take up space. To believe you deserve good things. Well, here's your permission. You deserve all of this. The love, the family, the happiness. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and just enjoy what you've found. What if I mess it up? Then you'll fix it. That's what families do. Her mother paused. Tasha, those kids lost their mother. Julian lost his wife. They know what real loss feels like. If they're willing to open their hearts to you, that means they trust you won't hurt them. Don't prove them wrong by running scared. After they hung up, Tasha knew what she needed to do. She walked back to the main house, where she found Julian reading on the couch, glasses perched on his nose in a way that made him look both distinguished and adorable. That was quick, he said, looking up. I thought you'd need more time. I don't need more time. I already know my answer. Tasha sat beside him. Yes. I want to make this official. I want to be here permanently for you and the kids. I want to be a real part of this family. Julian's smile was blinding. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. You have no idea how happy you've just made me. I have some idea, Tasha laughed, hugging him back. They talked late into the night about what this would mean. Tasha would officially move into the main house, though she'd keep the guest house as her studio. They'd sit down with the kids together and explain that Tasha was now a permanent part of the family. They'd add her name to school contacts, emergency forms, all the official documents that declared she had a say in these children's lives. There's one more thing, Julian said as they were getting ready for bed. I want to give you something. He pulled a small box from his nightstand drawer. Inside was a key. It's to the house, obviously. But it's also symbolic. Julian placed the key in her palm. This is your home now. Not because I'm allowing you to stay, but because it's yours. You belong here. Tasha closed her fingers around the key, feeling the weight of what it represented. Commitment. Trust. Home. Thank you, she whispered, for taking a chance on me. for letting me into your lives. Thank you for staying after I literally hit you with my car. Julian grinned. Best worst thing I ever did. They told the kids the next morning over breakfast. Tasha had been nervous, but she shouldn't have been. So Tasha's moving in permanently? Sophie asked, looking between them. Yes. She's going to be here always as part of our family, Julian confirmed. Emma squealed and launched herself at Tasha. I knew it. I told everyone at school you were staying forever. Luke smiled quietly, then asked, does this mean Tasha can come to parent-teacher conferences? If she wants to, absolutely, Julian said. I want to, Tasha assured him. Lily pumped her fist in the air. Yes. Now I have 2 parents at all my games like everyone else. Sophie was the only one who seemed hesitant. She looked at Tasha seriously. You're really not going to leave? I'm really not going to leave, Tasha promised. I know people have left before and I know that's scary. But I love you guys. All of you. I'm not going anywhere. Sophie nodded slowly, then did something she rarely did. She got up, walked around the table and hugged Tasha. Okay. Good. Because we love you too. The rest of breakfast was chaos in the best way. The kids talked over each other, making plans for things they could do now that Tasha was officially staying. Emma wanted to redecorate Tasha's new room in the main house. Luke asked if Tasha could help him build a science project he'd been thinking about. Lily wanted to have a celebration party. Sophie suggested they all take a family photo to hang in the living room. We should do that, Julian agreed. A proper family portrait. That afternoon, they all piled into the car and drove to a local photography studio. The photographer was patient with the chaos, letting the kids be themselves instead of forcing stiff poses. The resulting photos were beautiful and real, capturing Sophie's careful smile, the twins' energy, Emma's joy, Julian's contentment, and Tasha right in the middle of it all where she belonged. When the photos came back a week later, Julian had the best one enlarged and framed. It now hung in the entryway, the first thing anyone saw when they entered the house. A family of 6, happy and whole. Tasha stood looking at it one morning before the kids woke up. 6 months ago, she'd been alone and struggling. Now she was surrounded by love, by purpose, by a family that chose her as much as she chose them. Pretty great, isn't it? Julian appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. It's everything, Tasha said softly. I never thought I'd have this. Well, you do. And we're never letting you go. He was right. This was hers now. This family, this home, this life. And she was going to spend every day proving she deserved it. 6 months had passed since Tasha officially moved into the main house. The rhythm of their life together had become as natural as breathing. She knew which kid needed what on any given morning, knew when Julian was stressed even before he said anything, knew the exact spot on the back porch where the afternoon light was perfect for sketching. But there was one thing she hadn't told them. One secret she carried like a stone in her chest. The conversation happened on a random Tuesday evening. The kids were all in bed, exhausted from a day at the amusement park. Julian and Tasha were on the couch, her feet in his lap while he absently massaged them. I've been thinking, Julian said, his voice careful in a way that made Tasha look up from her tablet. About? The future. Our future. He met her eyes. I want to marry you, Tasha. Not right now necessarily, but someday. I want you to be my wife, not just my partner. Tasha's heart jumped into her throat. Julian? I know we haven't talked about it explicitly, but I think we've both been thinking it. He continued to rub her feet, grounding her with the familiar gesture. The kids already see you as their mother. My family adores you. And I'm completely in love with you. I love you too. The words were automatic, true without question. So what do you think? About marriage, about making this official in every possible way? He smiled and it was full of hope. We don't have to rush. But I'd like to know we're moving in that direction. This was the moment. Tasha knew she had to tell him now before things went any further. Before he started planning a future that might not be possible. There's something I need to tell you first, she said, pulling her feet back and sitting up straighter. Something I should have mentioned before, but I was scared. Julian's expression shifted to concern. Whatever it is, we can handle it. I can't have children. The words came out flat, emotionless, the way they always did when Tasha said them out loud. I have a condition called premature ovarian failure. My doctors found it when I was 25, after I'd been trying to figure out why my cycles were so irregular. Basically, my ovaries don't work properly. I can't get pregnant naturally, and even with fertility treatments, the chances are basically zero. She watched Julian's face, waiting for disappointment or pity or the careful retreat she'd seen in past relationships. Instead, he just looked confused. "Okay," he said slowly. And that means we can't have kids together. If you were thinking about expanding the family or having a baby that's actually yours and mine, that's not possible." Tasha's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "I know that's a big deal. It's okay if you need time to process that or if it changes things between us." Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then, to Tasha's complete shock, he smiled. Not a small, polite smile, but a genuine, almost relieved one. "Good," he said simply. "I've got enough kids for both of us." Tasha stared at him. "What?" "Tasha, I have 4 children. 4 wonderful, exhausting, time-consuming children." Julian moved closer, taking her shaking hands in his. "I love them more than life itself, but I'm also 40 years old and barely keeping my head above water most days. The thought of starting over with a baby, of diapers and sleepless nights and preschool again, sounds like a nightmare. But most men want their own biological children. Want to pass on their genes or whatever. I have 4 biological children who I love deeply. That doesn't mean I love them more than I love you, or that I would love a hypothetical biological child with you more than I already love being part of the family we've built." His voice was firm. "You're not less valuable because you can't have kids. You're not incomplete. You're perfect exactly as you are." Tasha felt tears building behind her eyes. "You really mean that?" "I've never meant anything more." Julian cupped her face in his hands. "Do you know what I think about when I imagine our future? I think about all of us together watching Sophie graduate from high school, teaching the twins to drive, walking Emma down the aisle someday. I think about growing old with you, traveling once the kids are grown, becoming grandparents together. Not once in any of those dreams did I think about having another baby. But what if you change your mind later?" "I won't. I've had the baby phase. I've done the toddler years. I'm happy where we are now, with kids who can dress themselves and have actual conversations and don't require constant supervision." He smiled. "Besides, you've given these kids something I couldn't give them on my own. A mother's love, patience, creativity. You complete our family. We don't need anyone else." "I was so scared to tell you," Tasha admitted, the tears finally spilling over. "My last serious boyfriend left when I told him. He said he couldn't imagine a future without his own kids. Then he was an idiot who didn't deserve you." Julian wiped her tears with his thumbs. "Tasha, you have 4 kids. They're already yours. Emma calls you mom. Luke puts you down as his mother on school forms. Lily brags about you to her soccer team. Sophie asks your advice on everything. How is that not enough?" "It is enough. More than enough." Tasha laughed through her tears. "I just thought you'd be disappointed. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that you've been carrying this fear around instead of talking to me about it." Julian pulled her into his arms. "We're partners, remember? That means we talk about the hard stuff even when it's scary." They sat there for a while, Tasha crying into his shoulder while he held her and murmured reassurances. When she finally pulled back, she felt lighter than she had in months. "So you really don't care that I can't have kids?" "I really don't care." Julian kissed her forehead. "I care that you're here. I care that you love my children like they're your own. I care that you make me laugh and challenge me and make every day better just by existing. Whether you can have biological children has nothing to do with any of that. You're really okay with just the 4 we have?" "Just the 4? Julian raised an eyebrow. "Tasha, 4 kids is a lot of kids. Some days it feels like we have 12. I'm more than okay with stopping here." Tasha laughed, feeling the last of her tension dissolve. "They are a lot. They're everything. And so are you." Julian took her hand. "So can we stop worrying about hypothetical babies and start talking about our actual future? Because I'd really like to know if you'd consider marrying me someday." "Yes," Tasha said without hesitation. "Someday when the time is right, I would love to marry you." Julian's smile was radiant. That's all I needed to hear. They stayed up late talking about the future in concrete terms. Where they wanted to travel once the kids were older. How they'd handle college decisions and teenage drama. What retirement might look like. Every conversation assumed they'd be together, a team facing whatever came next. "Can I ask you something?" Tasha said as they were finally heading to bed. "When you said you've got enough kids for both of us, did you really mean for both of us? Like you see them as mine too?" "Tasha, you've been parenting them for almost a year now. You know their schedules better than I do. You help with homework and attend school events and comfort them when they're sad. You're their mother in every way that matters." Julian stopped at the bedroom door. "The only reason they don't officially call you mom is because we haven't made it official. But that's what you are." They can call me whatever they're comfortable with. We should ask them what they want. Let them decide. Julian opened the door. But I have a feeling they're going to want to call you Mom. That weekend they sat down with all 4 kids for a family meeting. Emma was bouncing with excitement, sensing something big was happening. The twins sat close together on the couch. Sophie looked nervous but curious. Tasha and I want to talk to you about something important, Julian began. We want to know how you feel about Tasha being part of our family. We already talked about this, Lily said, confused. She's staying forever, remember? Right, but we want to know if you'd be comfortable with Tasha having a more official role. Like, if you wanted to call her Mom, that would be okay with both of us. Emma's hand shot up like she was in class. I want to call her Mom. I already do sometimes. I know you do, baby, Tasha said softly. And that's okay with me. Luke raised his hand too, more tentatively. Is it okay if we call her Mom Tasha? So we remember our first mom but also have Tasha? That's perfect, Julian said, his voice thick with emotion. What about you too? Lily nodded enthusiastically. Mom Tasha works. That way everyone knows she's ours. All eyes turned to Sophie, who was quiet. She looked at Tasha for a long moment. I remember my mom, Sophie said finally. Not as much as I'd like, but I remember her. And I don't want to forget her. You won't forget her, Tasha assured her. Your mom will always be your mom. I'm not trying to replace her or make you forget. I just want to be here for you in whatever way you're comfortable with. Sophie nodded slowly. I think Mom Tasha is good. Because you're like a mom but you're also Tasha, you know? You're your own person, not a replacement. Tasha felt tears prickling her eyes again. That means a lot to me, Sophie. Can we make it official? Emma asked. Like, can you adopt us or something? Julian and Tasha exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed that yet, but it wasn't a bad idea. That's something Mom Tasha and I would need to talk about and figure out legally, Julian said. But if that's something you all want, we can look into it. I want it, Emma declared. Me too, the twins said in unison. Sophie was quiet again, then nodded. Yeah, I want that too. After the kids went back to their activities, Julian pulled Tasha aside. Did that just happen? Did my kids just ask you to adopt them? I think they did. Tasha was still processing it herself. Is that even possible? You're their biological father and I'm not married to you. I can call my lawyer tomorrow and find out. But Tasha, if it's possible, would you want to? Julian searched her face. It's a big step. Legally, you'd be responsible for them. It's not something to take lightly. I already feel responsible for them, Tasha said. Making it legal would just match what's already true in my heart. So yes, if it's possible, I'd want to. Julian kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour. Well, I do. Completely and utterly. The lawyer confirmed that it was possible for Tasha to adopt the children as a second parent, though it would be easier if she and Julian were married. They decided to wait on the legal adoption until after they were engaged officially, but they didn't wait to tell the kids that yes, when the time was right, Tasha would legally become their mother. Emma cried happy tears. Luke hugged Tasha for a solid 5 minutes. Lily did a victory dance around the living room. Sophie smiled in that careful way she had, but later that night she came to Tasha's studio. Can I tell you something? Sophie asked, hovering in the doorway. Always. I'm glad it's you. I'm glad Dad found you, and I'm glad you're going to be our mom officially. Sophie moved into the room. I used to worry about what would happen if Dad met someone. If they'd be mean or if they'd try too hard or if they'd make everything weird. But you're just right. Tasha set down her design tablet. Come here. Sophie came over and Tasha pulled her into a hug. You know what I worried about? Tasha said. I worried that I'd never be good enough. That I'd always be a poor substitute for your real mom. But you guys made me feel like I belong here, like I'm part of the family. You gave me something I didn't even know I was missing. A family? A family, Tasha confirmed. I didn't think I'd ever have kids and then I got 4 all at once. Best thing that ever happened to me. Sophie hugged her tighter. Second best. First best was Dad not killing you with his car. They both laughed and Tasha thought about how far they'd all come. From strangers brought together by an accident to a real family, chosen and cherished. That night, lying in bed next to Julian, Tasha finally felt complete. The secret she'd been carrying was out, and instead of driving him away, it had brought them closer. He loved her exactly as she was, broken parts and all. Thank you, she whispered in the darkness. For what? For not caring that I'm not perfect. For loving me anyway. Julian rolled over to face her. You are perfect. Not despite your imperfections but including them. You're perfect for me, perfect for this family, perfect exactly as you are. I love you. I love you too. And I've got enough kids for both of us, remember? He grinned. Tasha laughed. You know, when you said that, it was the best response anyone could have given me. It made me feel like I was enough just as I am. You're more than enough. You're everything. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, two people who'd found their perfect fit in the most unexpected way. And in the morning, they'd wake up to four kids who called Tasha Mom, who loved her unconditionally, who made every chaotic moment worth it. Tasha had spent years thinking her inability to have children made her incomplete. But lying there in the darkness, surrounded by the life she'd built, she finally understood the truth. She wasn't incomplete at all. She was whole, loved, and exactly where she was meant to be. 3 months after their conversation about adoption and the future, Julian took Tasha on a weekend trip. His mother came to stay with the kids, and for the first time in nearly a year, they were alone together for more than a few hours. They drove up the coast to a small bed and breakfast overlooking the ocean. The room was beautiful, all white linens and ocean views, but Tasha barely noticed. She was too busy being nervous. You're quiet, Julian observed as they walked along the beach that first evening. Everything okay? Just thinking. About us, about the kids, about how fast everything is moving. Tasha picked up a shell and examined it. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. Good can't believe or bad can't believe? Good. Definitely good. She slipped her hand into his. I wake up some mornings and have to remind myself that this is real. That I get to live in that beautiful house with those amazing kids and with you. Julian stopped walking and turned to face her. The sun was setting behind him, turning the sky shades of orange and pink that would have been beautiful if Tasha wasn't so focused on his face. I want to make it more real, he said. More permanent. Julian. He pulled a small box from his pocket and Tasha's breath caught. I know we said someday. But Tasha, every day with you is better than the day before. Every morning I wake up grateful that you're in my life, in our lives. I don't want to wait for someday when I'm already sure about forever. He opened the box to reveal a ring, simple and beautiful, with a single diamond that caught the fading sunlight. Tasha Green, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, and officially be the mother to my children? Will you build the rest of our lives with me? Tasha looked at the ring, at Julian's hopeful face, at the ocean stretching out behind them. She thought about Emma's drawings that always included her now. About Luke's proud smile when he brought home good grades. About Lily's soccer games where she was now listed as a parent. About Sophie's careful trust that had grown into real love. She thought about how Julian looked at her every morning like she was something precious. How he supported her business dreams. How he'd said he had enough kids for both of them and meant it completely. There was only one answer. Yes, she said, her voice strong and sure. Yes to all of it. Julian's smile was brighter than the setting sun. He slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly like everything else about them. Then he kissed her and Tasha felt like her heart might burst from happiness. The kids are going to lose their minds, Julian said when they finally pulled apart. Emma's been planning our wedding since the day you moved in. Has she really? She has a whole folder. With pictures cut from magazines and color schemes and everything. He laughed. Sophie helped her put it together. I think they've been waiting for this moment as much as I have. They stayed on the beach until the stars came out talking about their future. They wanted a small wedding, just family and close friends. They'd tell the kids first thing when they got home. They'd start the adoption process immediately after the wedding. Can we make one thing clear? Tasha said as they walked back to the bed and breakfast. I'm not changing my name. Julian looked surprised. You're not. I'm keeping Green professionally because it's my business name, but I was thinking, what if the kids and I all became Bennett Green? Hyphenated. That way we're all connected, but I'm not erasing who I was before. I love that, Julian said immediately. It shows that you're not just joining us, we're all becoming something new together. Exactly. The next morning they called Diane to give her the news before telling the kids. She cried happy tears and immediately started planning. The garden would be perfect for a summer wedding, she said. Oh, and I have my mother's wedding veil that Caroline wore. Perhaps you'd like to wear it too. Tasha was touched. Are you sure? That's a family heirloom. And your family, Diane said firmly. You're marrying my son and becoming the mother to my grandchildren. That makes you family in every way that matters. When they got home Sunday afternoon, the kids were waiting on the porch. Emma ran to meet them with the others following close behind. Did you ask her? Emma demanded. Did she say yes? Let me see the ring. Julian laughed. How did you know I was going to propose? Grandma told us. She said that's why you went away together. Emma grabbed Tasha's hand to examine the ring. It's beautiful. You're getting married. We're going to be a real family. We're already a real family, Tasha corrected gently. But yes, your dad and I are getting married. The kids erupted in cheers. Lily jumped up and down. Luke high-fived Julian. Sophie tried to look cool about it but couldn't hide her smile. When's the wedding? Sophie asked. Emma's been planning it forever. She has a whole folder. I heard about the folder. We'd love to see it. Emma ran inside and came back with a thick binder covered in stickers. Inside were magazine clippings, hand-drawn sketches, and detailed notes about everything from flowers to cake flavors. This is impressive, Tasha said, flipping through pages. You really thought of everything. I wanted to be ready. Emma pointed to a picture of a flower girl dress. Can I wear this? And can Sophie be your maid of honor? And can the twins walk you down the aisle since you don't have a dad? Tasha's throat tightened. Her father had died when she was young, and she'd always known that when she got married, that walk would be bittersweet. I'd be honored to have Luke and Lily walk me down the aisle, she said. If they want to. Yes, they said together. They spent the rest of the day looking through Emma's folder and talking about the wedding. They decided on a summer ceremony in the garden, just family and a few close friends. They'd have it catered but keep it simple. They'd write their own vows. Can we be part of the ceremony? Luke asked. Like, can we say something about becoming a family? That's a wonderful idea, Julian said. We'll make sure all 4 of you are part of it. Over the next few months, wedding planning became a family affair. Sophie helped Tasha choose a dress, a simple cream-colored gown that was elegant without being fussy. Emma and Lily picked out their own dresses, both in shades of green that complemented the garden setting. Luke got a suit that matched Julian's, and he wore it around the house for days practicing his important walk. Tasha's design business continued to thrive. She hired 2 more assistants and officially opened a small studio in downtown Seattle, though she still did most of her work from home. The kids loved visiting the studio, and sometimes after school they'd all go there together. Luke would do homework in the quiet office while the girls explored the design materials and Julian worked on his laptop in the corner. This is nice, Julian said one afternoon, watching his family scattered around the studio. All of us together while you work. It is nice. I never thought I'd have this when I opened the business. A family to share it with. The weeks before the wedding were chaotic in the best way. Diane came to stay for 2 weeks to help with preparations. Tasha's mother flew in from Atlanta and immediately bonded with Diane over stories about their children. The 2 women spent hours together planning and cooking and laughing. Your Julian is a good man, Tasha's mother told her one evening. And those kids, they love you completely. You found your place, baby girl. I did. It just looked different than I expected. The best things usually do. The morning of the wedding, Tasha woke up in the guest house surrounded by her bridesmaids. Sophie, her best friend Kenji, and 2 friends from college. Sophie was already up, looking through the window at the garden where chairs were being set up. Nervous? Tasha asked. A little. I want everything to be perfect for you. Sophie turned around and Tasha saw tears in her eyes. I'm glad you're marrying my dad. I'm glad you're going to officially be my mom. Come here. Tasha held out her arms and Sophie came to sit on the bed. You know what I'm most excited about today? It's not the dress or the flowers or even marrying your dad, though that's pretty great. It's knowing that after today there's no question. You 4 are my kids. Legally, officially, in every way possible. We've been your kids for a while now. I know. But this makes it permanent. This means no one can ever say I'm not your mother. Sophie hugged her tight. You're already my mother. The wedding is just paperwork. But it was more than paperwork. When Tasha walked down the aisle later that afternoon, with Luke on one side and Lily on the other, she felt the weight and joy of what she was doing. She was marrying Julian, yes. But she was also publicly claiming these 4 children as hers. She was telling the world that this family, assembled from broken pieces and unexpected moments, was real and whole and hers. Julian stood at the end of the aisle under an arch covered in flowers, and when he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. Beside him, Emma bounced on her toes in excitement. Sophie stood with Tasha's other bridesmaids, looking proud and happy. The garden was full of people they loved, all there to witness this moment. The ceremony was perfect in its simplicity. They exchanged rings and vows they'd written themselves. Julian promised to love her, support her dreams and grow old with her. Tasha promised to be his partner, to love his children as her own, and to build a life full of laughter and love. Then came the part the kids had planned. All four of them stepped forward, and Sophie read from a paper they'd all worked on together. "We want to say something too," Sophie began, her voice only shaking a little. "Tasha came into our lives when we needed someone. She didn't have to stay. She didn't have to love us. But she did, and she does, and that means everything. Today she's marrying our dad, but she's also choosing us. So we want to choose her back. We choose Tasha to be our mom. We choose this family. We choose love." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Tasha was openly crying, and Julian had to wipe his face multiple times. Even Sophie looked teary. "I love you," Tasha mouthed to the kids. "We love you too, Mom," Emma said loudly, making everyone laugh. When the officiant finally pronounced them married, Julian kissed Tasha like they were the only two people there. The kids cheered. The guests clapped. And Tasha felt like her heart might actually explode from happiness. The reception was joyful and relaxed. They ate good food, danced to music the kids had helped choose, and celebrated with the people who mattered most. Emma gave a speech about how Tasha made the best pancakes and always braided her hair just right. Luke talked about how Tasha helped him believe he could do anything, even when reading was hard. Lily said Tasha was the loudest cheerer at all her games. Sophie spoke about how Tasha listened without judging and made her feel heard. By the time Tasha and Julian cut the cake, Tasha felt full to bursting with love. This was her family. These were her people. This was her life, and it was more beautiful than anything she could have imagined. That night, after the guests had left and the kids were finally asleep, Julian and Tasha sat on the back porch looking at the stars. "We did it," Julian said. "We're married. We're married." Tasha looked at her ring, still not quite believing it was real. "I'm a wife and a mother and a business owner. A year ago, I was just trying to pay rent. A year ago, I hit you with my car. Best accident of my life. Worst meet-cute ever. And yet, here we are." Julian pulled her closer. "Mrs. Bennett Green, how does it feel? Like I'm finally home." They sat there in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds and enjoying the peace. Inside the house, their children slept safe and loved. Tomorrow they'd start the adoption paperwork to make Tasha's legal connection to the kids official. Next week they were taking a family honeymoon to the beach. Next month, life would continue with all its chaos and joy. But right now, in this moment, everything was perfect. "Thank you," Tasha whispered. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing past my fear and recognizing that I belonged here before I did. Thank you for staying after I literally ran you over." Julian kissed her temple. "And for loving my kids like they're your own. They're my own. That's the best part." Tasha snuggled closer. "I can't have biological children, but I have 4 kids who chose me just as much as I chose them. That's better than anything I could have imagined." "Good," Julian said, echoing what he'd said that night months ago. "Because I've got enough kids for both of us, remember?" Tasha laughed, feeling lighter and happier than she ever had before. She'd found her family in the most unexpected way, built from accidents and choices and love that grew deeper every day. And it was more than enough. It was everything. 2 years after the wedding, Tasha sat in her downtown studio office, looking at the framed family photo on her desk. It had been taken at Lily's championship soccer game last month. All 6 of them were muddy and laughing, holding the trophy together. Sophie was 14 now, preparing for high school and already talking about art schools for college. Luke and Lily were 12, navigating the complicated world of middle school with varying degrees of success. Emma was 8, still drawing constantly but also discovering a love of theater. And Julian and Tasha were stronger than ever, their partnership deepening with every challenge they faced together. The adoption had been finalized a year ago. Tasha was now legally mom on every form, every school document, every medical record. The kids were officially Bennett Greens, carrying both their father's name and the name of the woman who chose to love them. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Tasha? Your 3 o'clock is here. Send them in." A young couple entered, both looking nervous. They'd reached out to Tasha through her website, wanting to commission some artwork for their new home. But when they sat down, the woman started crying. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "We're not here about art." "Well, we are, but that's not the main thing." "What's going on?" Tasha asked gently. The man took the woman's hand. "We saw an interview you did last year. The one where you talked about building your family, about how you can't have biological children but you became a mother anyway." Tasha nodded. She'd done that interview for a parenting magazine, talking honestly about her journey. It had resonated with more people than she'd expected. "We're in a similar situation," the woman continued. "I can't have kids either. And Mark, he has 2 children from a previous marriage. We've been together 2 years and I love his kids so much, but I'm terrified. What if I'm not enough? What if they never really see me as their parent? What if I'm always just the stepmother?" Tasha felt her heart squeeze with recognition. She remembered those exact fears, that exact terror of not being enough. "Can I tell you something?" Tasha said. "When I first started taking care of Julian's kids, I was convinced I'd mess it up. I had no experience with children. I was just a freelance designer who got hit by a car and somehow ended up living with a ready-made family." The couple smiled slightly. "Every day I worried that I wasn't doing enough, being enough, that the kids would realize I was a fraud." Tasha picked up the photo from her desk. "But you know what I learned? Love isn't about biology. It's about showing up every day. It's about helping with homework and cheering at soccer games and braiding hair before school. It's about listening when they're upset and celebrating their victories and just being there, consistently, with your whole heart." "But how do you deal with not having your own?" the woman asked. "Doesn't it hurt, knowing you'll never have that biological connection?" "It did hurt for a long time. I thought I was broken, incomplete." Tasha smiled. "But now I know that's not true. I have 4 kids who call me mom, who run to me when they're hurt, who ask my advice on everything from school projects to life problems. The fact that I didn't give birth to them doesn't make them any less mine. What if his kids don't accept me? They might not, right away. Sophie didn't trust me for months. She'd been hurt before and she was protecting herself." Tasha remembered those early days, the careful distance Sophie had maintained. "But I kept showing up. I kept being consistent and honest and present. And eventually she let me in." They all did. The couple looked at each other, something hopeful blooming in their expressions. "You said in the interview that getting hit by a car was the best thing that ever happened to you," Mark said. "Did you really mean that?" "I really did. Because that accident led me to Julian and his kids. It led me here, to this life, to this family." Tasha stood up and walked around her desk. "Look, I'm not going to tell you it's easy. Blended families are complicated. There will be hard days and moments of doubt. But if you love those kids and you're willing to put in the work, it can be the most rewarding thing in the world." "Can I ask you one more thing?" the woman said. "Do your kids know you're not their biological mother? Do they care? They know their mother died when the youngest was born. They remember her to varying degrees and we honor her memory." Tasha thought about the photo of Caroline that hung in the kids' rooms, the way they sometimes talked about memories they had. "But I'm their mother now too. Both things can be true. And no, they don't care that I didn't give birth to them. To them, I'm just mom." The couple left an hour later with both tears and smiles. They commissioned 3 pieces of art for their home, but more importantly, they left with hope. Tasha had given them what no one had given her when she was terrified: permission to believe this could work. When Tasha got home that evening, the house was its usual chaos. Lily was practicing soccer in the backyard. Luke was at the kitchen table struggling with math homework. Emma was singing show tunes at full volume in the living room. Sophie was on her phone, probably texting her friends but actually in the same room with everyone instead of hiding in her bedroom, which was progress. Julian was cooking dinner, looking harried but happy. "How was your day?" he asked, kissing her hello. "Interesting. I'll tell you later." Tasha looked around at her family. "Where do you need me?" "Luke needs help with fractions. Emma needs someone to run lines with her for the school play. Lily kicked a ball through the fence again, so we need to talk to the neighbors. Sophie is pretending she doesn't want to show you her latest drawing, but she definitely does. And I need someone to tell me if this sauce tastes right." Tasha laughed. "Just another normal evening." "Just another perfect evening," Julian corrected. After dinner, after homework and bath time and story time, after all 4 kids were finally asleep, Tasha and Julian had their nightly ritual of sitting on the back porch together. "I met a couple today who reminded me of us," Tasha said, telling him about the young woman who couldn't have children and was struggling with becoming a stepmother. "I hope I helped them." "I'm sure you did. You always do." Julian took her hand. "It's funny how our story keeps coming up. People are fascinated by how we met. By how you hit me with your car. Best worst decision I ever made, stopping to text while driving." He squeezed her hand. "Have I told you lately how grateful I am that you didn't sue me? Not in the last few days. Well, I am grateful for everything. For you, for us, for this family we've built." Julian looked at the house, where lights glowed in the windows. Sophie told me today that she wants to study art therapy in college. She says you inspired her. She did? She didn't tell me that. I think she was worried you'd cry. Julian grinned. You do tend to cry when the kids do something touching. I'm emotional. Sue me. Never. I love your emotions. I love how much you care about them, about all of us. He pulled her closer. Luke's teacher called me today too. She said his reading scores have improved dramatically over the past 2 years. She credits the extra work you've done with him. He's worked so hard. That's all him. It's both of you. And Lily's coach mentioned that she's more confident on the field now that she has both parents cheering for her. And Emma, well, Emma tells everyone who will listen that her mom is the best artist in the world and also makes the best pancakes. Tasha felt tears prickling her eyes because of course she did. They're good kids. They're happy kids. Because of you. Julian turned her face toward his. You know what Sophie said when I asked her what she wanted for her birthday? What? She said she already has everything she wants. A family that loves her, a mom who gets her, and a future that feels possible. His voice was thick. That's because of you, Tasha. You gave her that. We gave her that. Both of us together. Together, Julian agreed. That's how we do everything now. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars and listening to the night. Inside the house, their children slept, safe and loved and secure. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new homework struggles and friend drama and all the complicated beauty of raising 4 kids. But they'd face it together like they faced everything. Do you ever think about that day? Tasha asked. The day you hit me? All the time. I think about how different my life would be if I hadn't been distracted, if I'd been paying attention, if I'd driven down a different street. Julian pulled her onto his lap. Everything good in my life right now started with that accident. Everything good in my life started with being poor enough to not immediately refuse your help. Tasha laughed. I was so scared to take your money, to accept your kindness. But I did, and it changed everything. You changed everything. You took 4 kids who were drifting and gave them an anchor. You took a man who was surviving and taught him how to live again. Julian kissed her softly. I love you more today than I did the day we got married. And I'll love you more tomorrow than I do today. That's very poetic for a tech CEO. You inspire poetry. Also terrible metaphors and extremely sappy declarations. He grinned. Get used to it. We've got about 60 more years of this. 60 years of chaos and homework help and family dinners? 60 years of chaos and love and building a life together. Plus eventually grandkids, which Emma is already planning for. Tasha groaned. She's 8. She's a planner. She gets it from you. They stayed on the porch until the night turned cold, then went inside to their bedroom. The house was quiet now, that special kind of silence that comes when children are sleeping safe. Tasha checked on each kid, a ritual she'd never been able to break. Sophie was sprawled across her bed, still holding her phone. Luke had fallen asleep with a book. Lily had kicked off all her covers as usual. Emma was curled up with her stuffed animals, a smile on her sleeping face. They're all good, Tasha reported, climbing into bed next to Julian. Of course they are. They have you. They have both of us. They have both of us, Julian agreed. Best accident of my life, bringing you into ours. Tasha thought about the young couple from earlier, about their fears and hopes. She thought about her own journey, from a woman convinced she was broken to a mother of 4 who felt complete. She thought about how one moment, one accident, one choice to accept help instead of refusing it, had changed everything. You know what I told that couple today? Tasha said, settling into Julian's arms. I told them that love isn't about biology. It's about showing up every day with your whole heart. You're good at that. The showing up part. I learned from you. You showed up for me when you had every reason to just write a check and walk away. Best investment I ever made. They fell asleep tangled together, 2 people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way and built something beautiful from broken pieces. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead. Inside, a family slept, bound not by biology but by choice, by love, by the million small moments that make a life. In the morning, Tasha would wake up to Emma crawling into bed between them. She'd make breakfast while Julian got everyone ready for school. She'd help Luke with last-minute homework and remind Lily to pack her soccer gear and listen to Sophie talk about her latest art project. She'd go to her studio and create beautiful things. She'd pick up the kids and help with homework and make dinner and do all the ordinary, extraordinary things that made up a life. And she'd be grateful for every single moment. For the accident that brought her here. For the man who'd looked at her inability to have children and smiled. For the 4 kids who'd chosen her as surely as she'd chosen them. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. 4 years after Tasha and Julian's wedding, the Bennett Green household was a well-oiled machine. As well-oiled as any household with 4 teenagers and preteens could be. Sophie was 16 now and learning to drive, which gave everyone gray hairs. The twins were 14 and in high school, with Lily making varsity soccer and Luke joining the debate team. Emma was 10, still theatrical but now also discovering a love of writing. Tasha stood in her expanded studio space downtown, looking at the wall of framed magazine covers and awards. Her design firm had grown from just her to a team of 12. She'd been featured in business magazines, design journals, and even done a TED Talk about building a life from unexpected circumstances. But her favorite accomplishment wasn't hanging on any wall. It was at home, probably arguing about whose turn it was to load the dishwasher. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "Mom, can you pick me up from school early? I need to talk to you about something important." Tasha's heart jumped. Sophie rarely asked to leave school early. She quickly texted back that she'd be there in 20 minutes, grabbed her bag and told her assistant she was leaving for the day. The drive to the high school felt longer than usual. Sophie was waiting by the curb, looking serious but not upset. She climbed into the car without her usual greeting. "What's wrong?" Tasha asked immediately. "Nothing's wrong. I just needed to talk to you without everyone else around." Sophie buckled her seatbelt. "Can we go somewhere? Maybe the park by the house." They drove in silence to the small park near their property, a place they'd spent countless afternoons over the years. Once they were settled on a bench overlooking the pond, Sophie finally spoke. "I got my college application essay back from my English teacher today. She said it was one of the best she's ever read." Sophie pulled out her phone and opened a document. "I want you to read it." Tasha took the phone and began reading. The essay was titled, "The Day My Life Changed Twice." It told the story of the day Sophie's biological mother died, how her world fell apart when she was just 6 years old. And then it told the story of the day she met Tasha, how a woman who'd been hit by her father's car became the mother she needed. "Sophie," Tasha breathed, tears already forming. "This is beautiful. Keep reading." Tasha continued. Sophie wrote about the fear of letting someone new in, about the walls she'd built to protect herself. She wrote about watching Tasha with her siblings, seeing genuine care and patience. She wrote about the moment she decided to trust again, and how that decision changed everything. The essay ended with these words, "People always ask me if it's hard having a stepmother. They expect drama or conflict or some Disney movie villain story. But here's the truth, I don't have a stepmother. I have 2 mothers. One gave me life and lives in my memory and my heart. The other taught me how to live and stands beside me every day. Both shaped who I am. Both are my mom. And I'm grateful beyond words that fate, in the form of a car accident, brought the second one into my life when I needed her most." Tasha was openly crying by the time she finished. "Sophie, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know." Sophie was crying too now. "You always worry that you're not enough, that you'll never be a real mom because you didn't give birth to us. But Mom, you're the realest thing in my life. You're the one who taught me to be brave and creative and honest. You're the one who sat with me through every breakup and bad grade and moment of doubt. Biology doesn't make you a mother. Love does. And you love us so completely that sometimes I forget you weren't there from the beginning. Come here." Tasha pulled Sophie into a fierce hug. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that today. Bad day. Not bad, just reflective. Sometimes I still worry that I'm not doing enough, that you guys will wake up one day and realize you deserved better. That's ridiculous." Sophie pulled back. "You're the best mom we could have asked for. Even when you're embarrassing and overprotective and cry at literally everything." "I do not cry at everything. You cried at Luke's haircut last week. He looked so grown up." "Exactly my point." Sophie smiled. "But we love that about you. We love all of you." They sat on the bench for a while longer, watching ducks glide across the pond. Sophie talked about her plans for college, her dream of studying art therapy so she could help kids like her younger self work through grief and change. Tasha listened and offered advice, marveling at how this guarded 12-year-old had become such a thoughtful, articulate young woman. When they got home, Julian's car was already in the driveway. Unusual for 3 in the afternoon on a weekday. Tasha and Sophie exchanged glances and went inside to find Julian in the kitchen with all 3 other kids, and they were all trying very hard to look innocent. "What's going on?" Tasha asked suspiciously. "Nothing," Luke said in a voice that clearly indicated something. "We're just hanging out," Lily added, leaning against the counter in a way that looked posed. Emma bounced on her toes, unable to contain her excitement. Are you surprised? Surprised about what? Julian stepped forward, and Tasha noticed he was holding something behind his back. So, I may have orchestrated a small conspiracy with our children. A conspiracy. A good conspiracy. He brought his hands forward to reveal a thick, leather-bound book. We made you something. Tasha took the book carefully. On the cover, in beautiful calligraphy that was definitely Sophie's work, it read, Our Family, a Love Story. She opened it to find pages and pages of photos, drawings, letters and memories. The first page was a photo of Tasha in the hospital the day Julian had hit her with his car. Someone, probably Julian, had saved it. She looked terrible, bruised and in a hospital gown, but she was smiling at something off camera. The caption read, Day 1, the day everything changed. She turned the page. There was the first picture of her with all 4 kids, taken during that chaotic first dinner. Then photos from her time as their nanny, moments she'd forgotten about but they'd captured. Her helping Luke with homework, playing soccer with Lily, working on art projects with Sophie and Emma. Then came the engagement photos, wedding pictures, vacation snapshots. But between each photo were letters. Personal notes from each family member about what Tasha meant to them. Luke's letter talked about how she'd helped him see that his dyslexia didn't define him, that he was smart and capable and could do anything he set his mind to. Lily's was about confidence and support, about how Tasha had been at every single soccer game, rain or shine, cheering louder than anyone else. Emma's was illustrated with drawings, little stick figure stories about all their favorite memories together. Sophie's letter was the longest. It echoed themes from her college essay but added more, personal moments that she'd never mentioned before. Times when Tasha had known exactly what to say, or when she just sat quietly and let Sophie feel her feelings without trying to fix anything. And Julian's letter, oh God, Julian's letter made her sob. He wrote about the day he hit her, about how he'd thought his life was over when he saw her on the ground. He wrote about falling in love slowly and then all at once. He wrote about watching her become a mother to his children and knowing with absolute certainty that she was the missing piece they'd all been searching for. The last page was a new family photo, taken just last week. All 6 of them laughing at something Luke had said, a candid moment captured perfectly. Beneath it, in everyone's handwriting together, were the words, This is our family. Built on love, choice and one lucky accident. Here's to forever. Tasha closed the book and looked up at her family, all watching her with hope and love and anticipation. This is, she started, then had to stop because she was crying too hard to speak. She loves it, Emma declared. I knew she'd cry. Happy crying, Tasha managed. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. Do you like the title? Sophie asked. I wanted to call it, That Time Dad Hit Mom with His Car, but I got outvoted. Everyone laughed and suddenly they were all hugging, a big messy group hug in the middle of the kitchen. These were her people. Her family. Not by birth but by choice, which somehow made it even more precious. That night, after dinner and homework and the usual evening chaos, Tasha sat in the living room looking through the book again. Julian found her there, still crying happy tears. You okay? He asked, sitting beside her. More than okay. This book, what the kids wrote, what you wrote, it's everything I've ever wanted to hear but was afraid to ask for. We wanted you to know how much you mean to us. Not just today but for always. Julian put his arm around her. You saved this family, Tasha. We were functioning before you but we weren't really living. You taught us how to live again. You all saved me too. Tasha leaned into him. I was so lost before I met you. I had a business and a life but no real purpose. No one who needed me. Now I have 4 kids who need me every single day, and a husband who makes me feel like I'm the most important person in the world. You are the most important person in the world. My world at least. They sat quietly for a moment, then Tasha asked something that had been on her mind lately. Do you ever wonder what our lives would have been like if you hadn't hit me that day? If you'd been paying attention or I'd walked out of the coffee shop 2 minutes later? Sometimes. But not in a wishing way, more in a grateful way. Julian kissed her temple. I think about all the tiny moments that had to align perfectly for us to meet. If Sophie's school hadn't called. If my nanny hadn't quit that morning. If you hadn't been checking your phone. Any one thing different and we might have missed each other completely. That's terrifying. It is. But it also makes me appreciate what we have even more. He tightened his arm around her. We found each other against all odds. We built something beautiful from what could have been just a terrible accident. That means something. Sophie appeared in the doorway wearing pajamas and looking younger than 16. Can I talk to you guys? Of course, sweetheart. Tasha patted the couch beside her. Sophie sat down and took a breath. I know I already gave you the book and the letter and everything, but there's something else I want to say. Well, ask actually. What is it? Julian asked. My biological mom, I barely remember her. I was 6 when she died, and most of what I know about her comes from stories and pictures. Sophie looked between them. But you, Mom Tasha, I remember everything about you. Every moment from the day we met. You're the mother I actually know, the one who shaped who I am. Sophie, you don't have to say this. Yes, I do. Because I need you to know. Sophie's eyes were wet. When people ask about my mom, I talk about you. When I think about my future, about my own kids someday, I think about raising them the way you raised us. You're not my stepmother or my bonus mom or any other qualifier. You're my mom. Period. Tasha was crying again, which surprised absolutely no one. And I wanted to ask, Sophie continued, for my birthday next month, instead of a party or presents or whatever, can we do something to make it official? Like, I know you legally adopted us, but can I officially change how I talk about you? No more Mom Tasha, or explanations. Just Mom? Oh, sweetheart. Tasha pulled her into a hug. You can call me whatever makes you comfortable. If that's just Mom, then I'd be honored. Same for me. Luke's voice came from the stairs. He was standing there with Lily and Emma, all of them in pajamas. Apparently this was a planned ambush. You're a mom. We all think so. We've been talking about it, and we want to just call you Mom from now on. If that's okay, Lily added. We don't want you to think we forgot our first mom. We didn't. But you're the mom we have now, and we love you. Please say yes, Emma begged. I've been wanting to call you just Mom for years, but Luke said we should all do it together. Tasha looked at Julian, who was also crying now. He nodded encouragingly. Yes, Tasha said. Yes, of course. I would love that more than anything. The kids cheered and rushed over, creating another group hug that threatened to topple the couch. Julian joined in, and they all sat there in a big pile, laughing and crying and celebrating. After the kids eventually went to bed, truly this time, Tasha and Julian went outside to their favorite spot on the back porch. How are you feeling? Julian asked. That was a lot of emotion for one day. I feel like my heart might explode, but in the best way. Tasha looked at the stars. Do you know what Sophie said earlier at the park? She said I taught her to be brave and creative and honest. But Julian, she taught me those things. All of them did. They taught me that family isn't about biology. That love can happen fast and deep and be absolutely real. That taking a risk on people is worth it. They learned it from you, Julian insisted. You modeled it every day. We learned it from each other. That's what family does. Tasha turned to face him. Can I tell you something? That couple I met a few years ago, the ones who reminded me of us? They sent me a Christmas card last year. They're engaged now, and his kids are part of the wedding party. She wrote me a long note thanking me for the advice and telling me I gave her hope that it could work. You're inspiring people. We're inspiring people. Our family, our story, it shows that there are many ways to build a life. That accidents can become blessings. That broken pieces can create something whole. Speaking of inspiring, Julian said, pulling out his phone. I got an email today from a TV producer. They want to do a segment about unconventional families, and they'd like to feature us. Talk about our story, how we met, how we built this family. What did you tell them? I told them I'd talk to you first. Julian looked at her seriously. It would be invasive. Cameras in our home, interviews with the kids. But it might help people who are struggling with blended families or adoption or any of the things we dealt with. Tasha thought about the young couple in her office, about the emails she got regularly from people who'd read her interviews or heard her speak. She thought about Sophie's essay and Luke's improved confidence and Lily's security and Emma's joy. Let's do it, she said. If the kids are comfortable with it, let's share our story. Maybe it will help someone else believe that love can look different than they expected and be just as real. What does family mean to you? Is it blood, or is it the people who show up for you every single day? Drop a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to follow this family's journey. You won't want to miss what happens next. 2 months later, a camera crew spent a week at their house. They filmed morning chaos, homework sessions, soccer games, family dinners, and quiet moments on the back porch. They interviewed each family member separately, getting everyone's perspective on how they'd become a family. When the episode aired, Tasha watched it with Julian and the kids, all of them crowded on the couch together. It was strange seeing their life reflected back at them, but it was also beautiful. The producers had captured the love, the laughter, and yes, the chaos that made them who they were. The response was overwhelming. Tasha's email inbox flooded with messages from people thanking her for sharing their story. Single parents who felt less alone. Step-parents who felt validated. People struggling with infertility who found hope in a different path to parenthood. One email in particular stood out. It was from a woman named Patricia who wrote, "I'm a widow with 3 kids and I've been dating someone wonderful for a year. But I've been too scared to let him meet my children, scared they'll reject him or he'll realize it's too much responsibility. Watching your episode made me realize I'm not protecting anyone by keeping them separate. I'm just preventing the possibility of something beautiful. Thank you for giving me the courage to take that risk." Tasha read the email to the family at dinner that night. "See," Emma said proudly. "We help people just by being us." "That's the best kind of helping," Sophie agreed. Life continued in its beautiful, chaotic way. Sophie got her driver's license and immediately drove her siblings everywhere, giving Julian and Tasha a bit more freedom. Luke made the honor roll every semester, his dyslexia no longer a barrier but just another part of who he was. Lily's soccer team made it to the state championships. Emma's school play was so well received that she decided she wanted to be a playwright when she grew up. And through it all, Tasha and Julian stood together, partners in the truest sense. They supported each other's careers, parented as a team, and fell more in love with each passing year. One evening, about 5 years after their wedding, Tasha was working late in her home studio when Sophie knocked on the door. She was 17 now, preparing for college applications and looked nervous. "Mom, can I ask your advice on something?" "Always." Tasha saved her work and gave Sophie her full attention. "I've been thinking about my future, about what I want to study and why." Sophie sat down on the couch. "I've always wanted to do art therapy to help kids who've been through trauma like I went through. But lately I've been thinking about combining that with design like you do. Using visual art to help people heal and express themselves." "That sounds amazing. The thing is, I've been looking at programs and there's this perfect one in New York. It combines art therapy certification with an MFA in design." Sophie twisted her hands nervously. "But it's so far away, and I keep thinking about how you and Dad would manage without me here to help with the kids." Tasha's heart squeezed. Sophie had been parentified at such a young age, taking care of her siblings before she should have had to. Even now, she still felt that responsibility. "Sophie, look at me." Tasha waited until Sophie met her eyes. "You are not responsible for raising your siblings. That's my job and your dad's job. Your job is to be 17 and dream about your future and apply to the schools that excite you, even if they're across the country. But Luke still needs help sometimes, and Emma? Luke is doing great and Emma has us. You've already given your siblings so much by being an amazing big sister. Now it's time to think about yourself." Tasha moved to sit beside Sophie. "If New York is where you want to go, then apply to New York. Don't limit your dreams because you think we need you here. Don't you though? Need me? We'll miss you terribly. The house won't be the same without you. But Sophie, we want you to fly. We want you to become everything you're meant to be. And we'll still be here, cheering you on from across the country if that's where life takes you." Sophie leaned into Tasha's shoulder. "How did you get so wise?" "I learned from an incredibly strong young woman who taught me that family means supporting each other's dreams, even when it's hard." They sat there quietly for a while, and Tasha thought about how much had changed since that first day when Sophie had looked at her with suspicion and guarded hope. Now they could sit in comfortable silence, a mother and daughter who'd chosen each other and built something real. "Mom?" Sophie said softly. "Thank you for staying. Thank you for not giving up on us when we were difficult or when things got hard. Thank you for loving Dad and loving us and making this family whole again." "Thank you for letting me in," Tasha replied. "Thank you for taking a chance on the woman your dad hit with his car." They both laughed because at this point it was a family joke, the ridiculous origin story that had led to everything good in their lives. Later that year, Sophie did apply to the New York program. And when her acceptance letter came, they celebrated as a family, even though everyone knew they'd miss her desperately. Because that's what real love looked like. Supporting someone's dreams even when it meant letting them go. The night before Sophie left for college, the whole family gathered in the living room. Julian had started a fire in the fireplace even though it wasn't that cold, just for the coziness of it. They went around the circle sharing favorite memories, and by the end everyone was laughing and crying. "I have something for you," Tasha said to Sophie, handing her a wrapped package. "For your dorm room." Sophie opened it to find a framed piece of art. It was a digital illustration Tasha had created, showing 6 stick figures holding hands. It was simple but beautiful, reminiscent of Emma's childhood drawings but more sophisticated. At the bottom it read Bennett Green, built on love. "It's perfect," Sophie whispered. "I'll hang it where I can see it every day and remember where I come from. And know that you can always come home," Julian added. "This will always be your home no matter where life takes you." The next morning they all drove Sophie to the airport. The goodbye was tearful and long, with Luke reminding her to call every week, Lily making her promise to come home for soccer season, and Emma refusing to let go of her hand until the last possible moment. After Sophie disappeared through security, they stood there for a moment, a family of 5 feeling the absence of their 6th member. "She's going to do amazing things," Julian said, his arm around Tasha's waist. "She already has," Tasha replied. "We all have." They drove home to a house that felt too quiet without Sophie's presence. But by dinner time, the twins were arguing about something trivial, Emma was singing at full volume, and the chaos Tasha had come to love filled the space again. That night, Tasha received a text from Sophie, "Made it to my dorm. It's small but nice. I hung your picture first thing. Miss you already. Love you, Mom." Just Mom? Not Mom Tasha, or any qualifier. Just Mom. Tasha showed the text to Julian, and they both smiled through tears. "We did good," Julian said. "We did great," Tasha corrected. Over the next few years, life continued its forward march. Luke graduated from high school with honors and decided to study education, wanting to help kids with learning differences like himself. Lily got a full soccer scholarship to a state university. Emma won a playwriting competition and had her work performed at a local theater. And Sophie thrived in New York, coming home for holidays with stories about her classes and the kids she was already helping through her internships. She'd found her calling just like Tasha had found hers all those years ago. Tasha's business continued to grow. She'd written a book about building families and pursuing dreams, which became a bestseller. She gave talks at conferences and universities, sharing their story and encouraging others to believe that love came in many forms. But her favorite moments were still the simple ones. Sunday dinners with the whole family when Sophie was home. Watching Luke coach a kids' reading program. Cheering at Lily's games. Sitting in the audience for Emma's performances. And every night, sitting on the back porch with Julian, reviewing the day and planning for tomorrow. One evening, about 8 years after their wedding, Julian found Tasha in her studio looking at old photos. "Feeling nostalgic?" he asked. "Just grateful." Tasha showed him a photo from that first chaotic dinner, when Emma had fallen asleep on her shoulder. "Look how small they were. Look how young we were. We've earned these gray hairs," Julian said, pointing to the silver that now threaded through both their hair. "Worth every single one." Tasha stood and wrapped her arms around him. "Can I tell you something? I've been thinking about that day you hit me with your car. About how I almost refused your help because I was too proud and too scared. But you didn't refuse." "No, I didn't. And that choice, that one moment of accepting help when I needed it, led to everything. This family, this life, this love. All of it came from being willing to accept kindness." Julian kissed her forehead. "And I'm grateful every day that you said yes. Yes to the hospital, yes to the check, yes to dinner, yes to staying, yes to marrying me. Every yes brought us here. Do you ever wonder what advice you'd give to the you from 8 years ago? The stressed, overwhelmed single dad who was about to hit a woman with his car." Julian thought about it. "I'd tell him to slow down and pay attention, definitely. But I'd also tell him that the woman he's about to meet will change his life in the best possible way. That letting someone in, even when it's scary and fast and unconventional, can lead to the greatest happiness he's ever known." "What would you tell me? The broke designer who was about to get hit?" "I tell you that accepting help doesn't make you weak. I tell you that the family you're about to gain will fill all the empty spaces you didn't even know you had. I tell you to trust the process, even when it seems too good to be true." He smiled. "And I tell you that getting hit by a car is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you." They both laughed because it was absurd and true all at once. "You know what I love most about our story?" Tasha asked. "It's not a fairy tale. We didn't have love at first sight or a perfect courtship. We had an accident, some fear, a lot of chaos, and a choice to keep showing up for each other every single day. That's what real love looks like. Real love looks like you helping Luke with homework for the 100th time. Like me listening to Emma practice her lines. Like all of us showing up for Lily's games rain or shine. Like Sophie calling you from New York just to hear your voice." Julian held her closer. "Real love is built in the everyday moments, not the grand gestures." A car pulled into the driveway and they heard excited voices. Sophie was home for Thanksgiving break, arriving a day early to surprise everyone. Sophie's here, Emma's voice echoed through the house. Mom? Dad? Sophie's home. Tasha and Julian went to the main house to find all 4 kids in a group hug in the entryway. Sophie looked older, more confident, but her smile was the same when she saw Tasha. Hey Mom. Hey baby. Welcome home. They spent the evening catching up, with Sophie telling stories about New York and her studies. Luke shared about his college classes. Lily talked about the soccer team she was coaching on. Beside, Emma performed a scene from her latest play. And through it all, Julian and Tasha sat together, watching the family they'd built laugh and talk and simply be. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, Tasha found the leather-bound book the family had made for her years ago. She flipped through the pages, looking at how much they'd all grown and changed. Then she got a pen and added a new entry on the last page. 8 years ago I was hit by a car. I was injured, scared, and too proud to accept help. But I did accept it, and that choice changed everything. Today I have 4 incredible children who call me Mom. I have a husband who loves me unconditionally. I have a career I'm passionate about and a life that feels full and purposeful. I can't have biological children, and for years I thought that made me less than. Broken. Incomplete. But I was wrong. I have 4 kids who are mine in every way that matters. I have a family built on choice and love and showing up every single day. To anyone reading this who feels like their life hasn't turned out the way they planned, good. Because sometimes the unplanned life is better than anything you could have imagined. Sometimes getting hit by a car, metaphorically or literally, is the beginning of your greatest adventure. This is my family. This is my life. And I wouldn't change a single thing. With love and gratitude, Tasha Bennett Green, mom to Sophie, Luke, Lily, and Emma, wife to Julian, the luckiest woman alive. She closed the book and looked around the quiet house. This was home. This was family. This was love in its truest, most beautiful form. And it all started because one overwhelmed man wasn't paying attention while driving, and one struggling woman was willing to accept help when she needed it most. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes family finds you instead of the other way around. Sometimes you can't have children, but you can have 4 kids who choose you as surely as you choose them. And sometimes, just sometimes, the billionaire smiles and says, "Good, I've got enough kids for both of us." And you realize that's exactly what you needed to hear. Tasha turned off the lights and went to bed, grateful for every moment, every choice, every accident that had led her here. She was finally, completely, perfectly home.